In three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show. I'm your host, Ben. And so it turns out we did have EPL football after all, but only somewhat. Yeah, I was actually trying to think of how to do the script last night. Got a little concerned. So I think I've gotten a little ambitious today because I didn't think we had enough EPL to fit a whole show in. So I wanted to try to fit in the Champions League as well, like we did last week. But also, it's the international break coming up, and I did want to talk a little bit about the U.S. team. There have been some interesting call-ups, some interesting misses, and the UEFA Nations League is also underway, and yeah, there are a couple interesting storylines with that as well. England's actually in last place in their group, as is France. So a couple big games. No friendlies for them apparently. So a couple big games for them as well, and here to maybe keep me on task, keep me on my time, and maybe offer some insights as well. Is my co-host Rex, who I think is also buzzing for what happened on the weekend. So
Yeah.
once again, his team
Yeah.
sits atop the table. They don't seem to go away. Pesky
Yeah,
is.
and it's a pretty easy game, not too taxing, thankfully. And yeah, man, I'm ready to cover all this stuff. I ate a pixie stick, so I'm hyped up. Let's go. A lot of stuff to cover.
Excellent. And I've got my coffee as well, and so yeah, let's get to it. So like we do every show, we'll start with story of the week, and for me, I'll stick with the EPL, and I'll go with Brighton actually going ahead and appointing Roberto De Zerbi of Shakhtar to be the guy to be the, I guess, Graham Potter's successor. And this was a really good time for, I guess, them to do it because with the international break, you maybe get a little time to to be more settled. But too, it is interesting because well, he is leaving a Champions League side of his own. But he's known as a big possession guy, but really possession from the back. So he's not like a Pep guy. He just wants to keep the ball all the time. He's just very adamant on keeping the ball from the back third, and then when you finally get to the 50 line, they go. You see that with Shakhtar a lot. I think they had 40 passes. They had 240 passes versus RB Leipzig, and I think 40 of them were in the opposition half. So it's gonna be a pretty exciting hire. I'm looking forward to this. Another thing I saw an interesting quote from him as well, Rex, and basically he was asked, "Well, why do you play from the back? Well, what's your philosophy?" And he basically said, "I like to look at it between you can play long and play safe, but to me that's gambling. It's gambling or making a bet that you'll win that second ball or you'll win an header." And he basically said, "I don't like to gamble." So he prefers working more than betting essentially. And so he thinks if you can play from the back, you're in control, and if you can, as long as you train hard and work hard in training, you that doesn't that doesn't become a problem. So it looks like it'll be. But Brighton already kind of play this way, but it looks like there'll be some stress on Roberto or Sanchez, their keeper. Maybe he'll be asked to do a little bit more, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So I kind of went with that.
Well, yeah. The thing, there might be some growing pains, and if you make mistakes trying to play out of the back, obviously it's going to be a chance on goal. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. Um, you know, Brighton, like you said, already kind of play that way, and Sanchez is a good keeper, so we'll see. I do wonder about him with his feet, but this will definitely give us a view of how good he is with his feet.
And he was also at Sassuolo before, and I think he got them to eighth. So it's not like
Yeah,
he's just at Shakhtar having a couple good runs. So this will be
yeah, and
pretty
eighth place is
exciting.
pretty good for that.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and, Rex, what do you got?
Well, I was going to talk about red cards by league, but we all know our buddy Alex always says Ligue 1. He calls it the red card league, and they're definitely on top of all the top five leagues in red cards. But I'm going to go with it was a Ray Hudson week for me. I got to hear him call one of the games in the Champions League, but really it was just a bunch of goals that made me go, oh, like Ray Hudson does. And Katie was like, "What are you doing?" But I mean, gosh, the Holland goal against Dortmund and the ball from Cancelo, it was amazing, and I did my Ray Hudson impersonation there. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
man,
great.
it was another fun it's a fun week when you have Champions League and Europa League, and then we had two Premier League games on Friday, so there
Hmm.
was literally nonstop soccer every day, and it was awesome. And now we're kind of gonna quit cold turkey for 2 weeks again. It kind of sucks. I mean, I guess there'll be international games, so but just not the same,
Yeah, it really isn't. I try to hype myself
especially when
up
they're
with
friendlies.
the Nations League, but I really
Yeah.
can't. I mean, we are looking forward to the World Cup, but I mean,
Oh yeah.
we want our football or club football.
Yeah. Come on.
Speaking of Ligue 1 and red cards, I don't know if you saw this. It's actually a guy I like, Tadibo, I think, for Nice. He got a red in 9 seconds.
Jesus.
I think it's the fastest game. They said it was
Nice.
stopping a goal scoring opportunity. But I think it's the fastest ever. So
I mean, can you
living up to
imagine
their
being the player after
reputation.
9 seconds? You're done. Like you don't even have to cool down or anything. You're like, oh, okay, well, 9 seconds will work, and then you have to play the whole 90 with a man down too.
League on. All right. Alex was early on that too. Yeah.
Yeah, they had like a ton last year and the year before that too. It was, I think it was 2 years ago. It was just their total for red cards was insane.
Hmm. And so, like we said, we'll kind of we'll try to redo the Champions League like we did last week. Maybe go a little faster. As far as the standings go, there are a couple surprises. I mean, Napoli and Ajax are the first two over Liverpool and Rangers in Group A. Group B is Club Brugge and Leverkusen over Atletico Madrid and Porto. So a bit of a surprise there, especially considering Leverkusen's form in Bundesliga. In Group C, we have Bayern Munich and Barca. The first two. Oh well, actually, Barcelona and Inter are tied with 3 points. Bayern's the top of the group. Bayern's actually in a really good spot because they're about to play Victoria Plazen, I think, in back-to-back weeks, and they already have 6 points.
Ooh.
So they'll look to probably cement themselves. And then Group D, we have Sporting Lisbon, who got a 2-0 win over Spurs, which we'll get into. Tottenham's in second, or tied in second with Eintracht Frankfurt, and then Marseille was at 0 points for Group D. Group E, we have 4 points for Milan, three for Dynamo Kiev, two for Salzburg, and kind of the shocker, 1 point for Chelsea. So Chelsea has a lot of work to do for Group E, and then Group F, we have Real Madrid with 6 points, Shakhtar with 4 points, and Celtic with one, and then Leipzig, not looking good, looking for Europa. And then for Group G, we have Man City because of what Rex said with what happened in that Dortmund game. Dortmund are in second, and then you have Copenhagen and Sevilla following. And then Group H, we have PSG and Benfica are tied on 6 points, and then that means Juve and Maccabi Haifa are both with zero. Juve's we'll maybe get to, maybe not, but they're in some pretty big trouble right now. So
Yeah, definitely.
that's kind of setting it up, and well, I think we'll get started with Liverpool Ajax. Not just because I like talking about Liverpool, but it was a pretty big game, and the way it ended was pretty big. I mean, the main thing was Jota, Thiago, and Matip were back in the starting 11, and it's maybe simplistic to say, but that it was really the difference, to be honest. I mean, the goals from Salah, Kudus gets one to draw the game, make it even. There's another goal down the right side, which we'll get into, and then Matip in like the 80th minute or 89th minute from a corner kick. After Salah had like deflected a shot that like almost went off the post, so it was one of those. Oh, you don't tease me like that. And okay, thank you for that reward. I mean, the key stats were Liverpool had 2.22 for the XG versus Ajax is like zero point 0.3. Liverpool had 24 shots and 10 on target. Ajax just had one on target. I think three total. So they definitely did deserve this, but man, did they leave it late. Uh, I guess we'll get started with you, Rex. What were your first thoughts?
Well, I thought this might be a tough game. Honestly, we know Liverpool's form hasn't been great, but we talked about Ajax like last week how good they are despite losing at least one star every offseason. This year,
And their
they lost
coach.
2 stars and their coach. Yeah, 2 stars and their coach, and they're still. I mean, they're doing really well. They I mean, this is a tough game, but they won in the Champions League the week before that, and they're doing really well in the Eredivisie. But honestly, I was looking for Alvarez to perform really well and maybe get on the score sheet himself. He's been playing really well.
Hmm.
But man, the goal from Kudos was insane. But I do feel like Liverpool deserved the points here. They kind of, bossed the game around, and like you said, Ajax just weren't really able to get many shots off. So I thought Liverpool were deserving of this, and it was really crucial because I think a point, going into this international break, a point just wouldn't have been that great. I think they needed all three really to start to feel good about progressing through this group.
Yeah, if nothing else, I mean, again, it's kind of simplistic to say, but protect your points at home. If you do well at home, or you don't drop the points at home, usually you advance. I think, or maybe you always
Mhm.
advance. I don't know what the percentage is. So yeah, I agree. It was important to get the 3 points at Anfield. But two, it was really good to see a better performance. And I really do think Thiago was the difference maker. To be honest, you saw a much different team without the ball. The counter press was much better. I mean, Liverpool still played the same high line, and you didn't see the kind of chances that Napoli were able to make because Ajax didn't have nearly as much time on the ball to look up and find those passes. Now they
Mhm.
did score again on the right side, and that still is a bit of an issue. In fact, we actually saw Klopp make a change in the second half. He took off Harvey Elliott and brought on Firmino, and actually switched to a 4-2-3-1. He dropped his 3-4-3 or 4-3-3, and it'll be interesting to see if that's what that will be the play going forwards. Because I don't necessarily, I mean, I kind of talked about it before. I don't know if they have the midfield to necessarily play three in midfield going forward. They don't necessarily have the midfield depth for that. But another thing I saw was Trent was a lot better defensively in the second half. I don't know if Klopp yelled at him, or maybe Harvey Elliott was kind of crowding his spaces, but he was better going forward. He seemed to offer the width, and that allowed Salah to kind of play closer to Darwin, which was big. But two, he was actually in a couple 1v1 duels, and was really good at stopping counters or stopping any kind of attack. Like he's a good defender when he's in position. His issue has just been people being able to run behind him when he's kind of
Mhm.
been caught doing a hybrid role, and
Pressed up high, yeah.
Harvey not tracking him back. Um, was there anything else that you saw, Rex?
Well, I was kind of surprised Thiago actually played 94 minutes. I thought maybe he would
Yeah,
come out a little earlier, but I think, like you said, it was 1-1. Klopp knew they need the points, and then he gets a little bit of a rest after this because they didn't have a Premier League game on the weekend,
hmm
and now it's international break. So I think Klopp was like, we need the 3 points. But, 94 minutes. I think, whoa, did he come off the bench like the last game or two? So he's just back from injury. 94 minutes, that's huge for him, I think. And now he can rest a little bit. Like if Liverpool had a game this weekend after him playing 94 minutes, I'd be kind of worried about it. How much
true.
is he going to play? But I think it's great for him to get basically a full game in, and now he's got 2 weeks to kind of rest. So, like you said, with midfield depth, Thiago, we talked about him earlier in the year. He's crucial, we think, and it's good to see him back because I want these good players playing. I don't want them on the bench. I want to see the teams at strength.
I mean, it's not an exaggeration with Tiago in the squad. Liverpool goes from the team that looked like they did versus Crystal Palace versus Man United, versus versus Napoli, to being the team that actually has beaten this Man City super team.
Mhm.
He just makes them make it. They did not lose last year with him in the starting lineup, except for like that Real Madrid game last year. So it's not just what he does all off. I mean, when Liverpool have the ball, because he's also a very good, solid, passer, and he's good at keeping tempo. He's fantastic helping Liverpool build up play, and really good at counter pressing, which people
Mhm.
actually wouldn't have expected. They didn't think he was going to be a good Klopp midfielder, and he's turned out to be exceptional. The team, the system doesn't work when he's not in. But another thing too was Jota was back in the squad, and I mean, Jota is maybe severely underrated when it comes to he's known as a kind of like a poacher, a finisher, and he's very good at that. But he's good at creating chances for other teammates. He's just a clever runner, and he's really good at picking up passes. Sometimes he loses the ball too much. His ball retention isn't necessarily great, or it's not Roberto Firmino
Mhm.
like. But he can
Yeah.
he can definitely do a job in that middle, playing at the striker position, and basically his play that creates the goal for Salah. So, and I don't think that goal would have happened maybe with Firmino playing in that striker spot, or maybe even with Darwin. So it's really big to have him back. I think they've missed him more than people were expecting.
Yeah.
And maybe one last thing to kind of close out on is Darwin didn't come on in the second half, and he didn't score, but I thought he looked pretty good. This I've had little concerns with him, to be honest. You know, it's not his fault that he was compared to Holland, but it's just that that's kind of the way it was, and he hasn't necessarily looked like it coming into the league. But at least in this case, and I don't know if it was because Firmino was behind him, but he looked dangerous. He had a very good cut on the byline, and had a very good ball across goal that it should have maybe been a goal. There was a very good play by the keeper to keep Luis Diaz from basically having to tap in, and he almost scored after Salah cut him inside. So I think the more looks he can get inside the box, the better. And so I actually like him coming on the second half, not starting. I think he's a good change of pace guy. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
and so I guess that's mostly it. I mean, anything you want to say about Ajax?
No, I mean, I like watching them, and I like the fact that they're able to lose players and still be really good. Kudos is really fun to watch. I think they'll be. I mean, I think they'll be trouble. I mean, it is kind of with Napoli and Liverpool. It's a tough group to get out of, but I think they'll be fighting to get in that second spot come the end of the group stages. I think.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, they're fun to watch. But it was good for Liverpool too. They really need the 3 points.
Yeah.
Like we said, a point didn't do much for them here, and now they're right back in the group. A little bit of time to rest before your next Champions League, and I'm ready for Liverpool and Napoli again, man. We talked about how much they play, but they're always like really entertaining, even if even if it is a Napoli blowout, it was still like ridiculously entertaining and end to end. So I'm ready for that again. I don't know if you are, because you might get some more gray hairs,
Not
but
really. Yeah.
the neutral, I can't wait for that again.
I mean, it will be a little worrying if Thiago is able to play that game and Napoli still kind of looked the way they did in that first half. But at the same time, Thiago
Mhm,
did play in that second half, and he was better. So
mhm.
we'll see. I mean, Napoli just they deserve their kudos. It wasn't just Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool were bad that day, but they kind of forced those mistakes, and they forced those spaces. And they're firing in Serie A as well. So. Yeah, that's turned out to be a pretty fun and interesting group. And so and Rangers, well, Rangers haven't necessarily done a whole lot yet, but I imagine that game at Ibrox is not going to be easy. I imagine it's going to be a tough
Yeah,
place to play. So
yeah,
I
it's gonna
think
be super
Rangers
loud.
Liverpool will face Rangers back to back weeks when
Ooh,
the Champions League starts back. So be looking forward to that
okay.
as well. And so
Yeah.
next up we have Man City and Dortmund, and this one unfortunately ends 2-1. I think the interesting thing was John Stones actually started at right back, and we saw Kanji make another start for Pep, and Kanji also made a start uh, on Saturday as well. So
Mhm.
starting to all of a sudden being thrusted into the squad, and then for the attack it was Mahrez, Highland, and Grealish, and we'll maybe get into that. It did not necessarily work too well. So that Mahrez and Grealish pairing is maybe a problem for them. I mean, it started with
Mhm.
Bellingham getting the first goal. I think in like the 50th minute. There's a cross in from Royce that Bellingham was able to get on the end of, and it looked like Dortmund maybe had this. And then Stones just pulled something out of his back pocket that he should not have had.
Oh yeah.
With a wonder shot. Maybe the keeper didn't necessarily have the best go at it, but I mean, it's a great shot. And then Holland scored the goal that I'm sure Rex wants to talk about. And so
Ooh.
I mean, the shots really. I mean, the stats really were about even. I mean, Man City did have 12 shots, but only three on target. Dortmund had 5 shots and two on target. I mean, the XG was under one for both. And so, like, I think the story was Dortmund had City maybe where they wanted them, and then I don't know, maybe they got tired towards the end. They weren't necessarily pressing that final 20 minutes. City had more time on the ball. Uh, Pep made some subs. He brought on Alvarez and brought on Foden, brought on Bernardo Silva, and they seemed to be a little bit more threatening. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, that ended up showing up. So I guess we'll
Yeah.
kind of get started with Man City. I, I I don't want to necessarily say the formula is there, but it seemed like Dortmund did the same thing that Aston Villa did. They weren't really worried when City had the ball wide. They tried to clog up the middle as much as possible, and maybe that's how you can frustrate Grealish and Mahrez, who like to cut inside, who don't like to go wide, which we've talked about. And Holland, I think Holland ended up having like 25 touches, but it was again another one of those graphics where he had maybe like 5 or 6 at halftime. He did look frustrated. So
Mhm.
um, what were your thoughts about I guess City or the game, Rex?
But yeah, that's a good point because this is possibly a template for other teams on how to kind of at least slow down City. I don't think you're going to stop them, but you
Yeah.
might be able to slow them down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, also though, it's kind of an off-day shooting for City. They only had 3 on target out of 12,
Hmm.
but they just seem to produce like pieces of magic when they need it. And I mean, they have such a talented roster that they can do that. But I mean, because you kind of expect a little, the ability, I guess, to break open games with Holland, and the ball from Cancelo was amazing too because it was outside the foot, curling back to Holland, and Holland just kind of like threw his legs up over his head to score, and then you kind of get a little bit of class from unexpected people too with that Stones rocket. That was, I mean, I was not expecting that at all. Is that like his first goal? It has to be his first goal for City, but it's got to be his first goal
Or
in the
maybe his
in
first like outside the box. I think he's like poached or a few like from heading
a
or
few.
like yeah or like from corner kicks. I think he scored a
And he
couple.
hasn't scored in the. It might be his first goal in the Champions League in a while too,
That
for
could be
City at
yeah.
least.
That could be it.
But yeah, I mean, Pep does have some things to figure out. I think he kind of misses Sterling, just as a player that is
One
willing to
hundred.
go wide and
One
stay
hundred
wide and take
percent.
on people,
Yeah.
especially with Haaland, because like you just send those balls in. But I think they're okay. I think Pep's still trying to figure things out. Grealish started on the weekend too and scored.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, maybe getting Grealish back and healthy and in form helps a lot too. But yeah, I mean, just you think you have City down, and it's been that like that in the Premier League too, and then it's just like literally, 2 or 3 minutes, four minutes in between the goals, and they've just turned the game on its head. So, you can kind of shut down Man City for a little bit, but you can't stop them. I mean, it's just so hard to do.
And it's interesting too because I was expecting Cancelo to stay at right back because I thought he looked pretty good versus Sevilla, and it seems Pep wants him just to stay on the left side to kind of do maybe to do that kind of ball that we saw to Holland. One thing that's kind of weird to me because I've seen Salah do this too, and yes, it's a great skill to have, but it's almost you if you're only one footed, you have to have this kind of ball in your pocket because he Cancelo doesn't have a left foot even though he plays on the left side, so he can't do that kind of cross with his left foot. That's the
Yeah.
reason why he has to
Yeah.
do
True.
the outside thing. Now, also
Mhm.
there are some times when you can do the outside and kind of fool defenders, but I don't think he's trying to do that. I just think that's the only way he can get that kind of spin on the ball.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah, to curl it like back to Holland. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, the Holland goal was funny because I've personally seen or I personally remember him trying something almost exactly like this in the Community Shield game versus Liverpool, where like
Mhm.
the ball was now maybe this was a little different because maybe this was high enough where he had to like go at it with like the karate ninja like kick, but in the Community Shield game, I remember him having something similar, and he didn't head. He tried to do the same thing, and he mishit it. Like Salison was able to just kind of catch it. But I remember people like kind of like making fun of him about that. But maybe
Mhm.
he knew something that we did. Maybe he does this in training a lot because that is
Yeah,
such a ridiculous reaction finish.
it really is. He just throws his legs up there. Like I don't know. It's crazy watching it because too, it's just like his legs are up in the air, and it seems like he actually has control of his body,
He really
and like he
does.
can actually just like touch it in. Like he doesn't just like pound it. He like nestles it into the goal with like a great touch, even though his legs are flying above his head. It's crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, and like for being as like you're saying for being as big as he does seem to have control of his body, which is not fair.
Yeah, we
Um,
Googled it before the show. He's 6'4". So I mean, we thought he might be taller. He plays taller than 6'4", right?
And it's just yeah, if it was 6'4", you're not supposed to be as fast and powerful as he is too.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I guess kind of brass tacks. Do you think this is the team to beat this year in the Champions League?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I feel like I say that every year and they end up losing. But we talked about it last week too. I think Holland puts them over the top. So like if he's healthy, I think City are the team to beat. But they're going to be in a lot of fights like this, and I'm always worried that like maybe Holland will get figured out, but they do have the ability to produce magic from like everywhere else.
Hmm.
Even if Holland is shut out, I mean They have Alvarez hasn't been playing bad in these cameo appearances, and gosh, you still have like De Bruyne and stuff like that. So I think this team can be even better. I think if Peck can kind of figure out Grealish and Mahrez, and I mean Foden's been playing well, but if he can try to figure out those wide areas and attack, and try to do even better there, I mean, gosh, this team's going to be ridiculous because Dortmund had him down. They had him pinned down for the win, and not only did City come back and get the tie, but then they went on and got the winner. I mean, it was crazy. So yeah, City for me is the team to beat. But I really would love to see like City or City versus like Real Madrid or something like that in the
Yeah.
final. That would be a good game. But I still think City's the team to beat.
And to just focus a little bit on Dortmund, I do feel that there's nothing to really be upset about or ashamed of, because you're able to hold City in a way that we've only seen, I think, only Aston Villa, to be honest, kind of do. Just
Mhm.
kind of unlucky with a couple of those finishes. Bellingham did kind of get his big moment, but it was very hit and miss to me, to be honest. Like I understand he's going to get City and he's not going to have much time on the ball, and he's maybe asked to do a little bit more running than I guess other people were next to him. And he was very
Mhm.
active, but for only having 24 passes, I mean he was 3 of 7 for his ground duels. I mean, what did you think of Bellingham's performance? Aside from the goal.
I mean, I thought he was good. I like all the running he does, but I don't. I mean, I just don't think he is worth the price
Yeah.
that Dortmund want for him. I do think he's a really really good player, but I don't think I don't think he's worth that much. I think you will see him move to the Premier League. It's only a matter of time.
Hmm.
But it might be one of those things where it's like the last year of his contract, and teams don't have to pay 120 million for him, and that's when you're going to see him move. But yeah, I mean, I do think he's a really good player, but just he's not worth that much money, and I think that's why you've seen Liverpool like not pull the trigger on him because they're like, we'll just wait till his last year contract, and we can get him for maybe like half the price. It's just 120 for him is just too much. I think.
One thing that was definitely interesting for me is you did see Dortmund play in a 4-3-3. So they played in three midfield, and Bellingham actually played right center mid. Um, and so sometimes he plays in kind of a pivot. So
Mhm.
so he'll play like I want to say like defensively. But when you play like a 4-2-3-1, like they play, like Dortmund normally plays, you'll just kind of see him in the middle. Sometimes he'll be defensive, but sometimes he'll be like the attacking in the center. But it's different to play on the right side because what Klopp's system asks is you have to make bombing runs forwards and backwards because you have to cover for the right back. Um, and so it was very interesting to see him play that way because I've had my questions if he can do that, and frankly, to me, he did show that. So
Mhm.
there were kind of questions there. He did answer those at least. So,
Mhm.
but I kind of like you said, the valuations being quoted, just I do not think it's worth it, to be honest.
Mhm.
And to maybe focus on a little bit on Dortmund still. You see what happened with Marco Reus on the weekend? He's the one that actually
Yeah.
got their assist to Bellingham, and he's been a big player for them recently. And
Mhm.
he's been a big player because he's been able to stay fit. And so on the weekend, it seemed he might have gotten lucky, but he had a pretty bad ankle injury, and yeah, that was pretty gutting because I can't recall a time when he's been able to play in a big tournament. Um,
I think he's been injured like literally for almost every big tournament for Germany. So I mean, I really was gutted for him, but I would love to see him play for Germany. Do you know what is it a broken ankle or did he avoid any lengthy time out?
I think I've seen 3 to 4 weeks. So
Oh,
it's
okay,
possible
good.
he'll even be back for, like, the latter stages of the group stage. Um,
Okay, good.
but
So the World Cup possibly too
I think that's
is good.
only preliminary. No, that
Okay.
the report came back from a scan. So no breakage, no fracture.
Okay, good. Because
Um,
he was stretchered off and it looked
mhm.
maybe like he broke his ankle, but okay, that's good.
Yeah, that was wild. I woke up in the morning expecting to find that on ESPN Plus, and it was on the real ESPN. It was on cable.
Oh yeah,
That was
yeah.
that was
They
huge.
got they bought the rights, right? Or the rights to a game a week, I guess. ESPN.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well
I
that's good.
think.
That's really good.
Yeah, if they have a weekly game, yeah, they might have.
And maybe with the Royce injury, someone's misfortune becomes someone's fortune. Maybe we'll see him kind of get a start because I think we saw him subbed on it in the on Saturday because of that. And If not, we'll probably see a little bit more Karim Adeyemi and Daniel Mallon. So
Yeah,
Dortmund still have some players to play there, but I mean they're still a squad that's kind of I don't say the middling because I think they're first in the league or like second. But
yeah,
it does seem like they're kind of I kind of feel bad for them because they seem to have the Holland replacement in Haller, and because that didn't work, they had to go get Modeste, and it's not necessarily the same. Well, it's definitely not the same thing. So they're kind of
yeah,
struggling to transition from that too. So
yeah. And yeah, losing Haaland, man, that's a lot of goals to replace. So,
yeah,
but yeah, they're doing well considering they lost Haaland, their best player, and they're kind of, I mean, usually they're historically kind of a selling club, even though they do a really good job at producing and selling and making money on these players. So yeah, it's always hard. And then you lose Haaland, and he's your best goal scorer. And then yeah, Haller, you bring him in, and he was playing really well at Ajax. And then
yeah,
he has I think he had, what do you have, a tumor? I think he's going to be okay, but the
hmm
treatment and everything, he's going to be out like the whole year.
yeah.
So yeah, I think they've done well so far in the Bundesliga, just to like scrape together wins, and it's going to be even harder without Royce. But what, they only have 2 weeks without him because of the international break,
hmm
hopefully. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they're not a Champions League contender, but they are certainly not a team that I would want to play in the Champions League. They always play tough, it seems like.
Yeah, and it seems for them actually playing a different formation, just kind of maybe counter what City wanted to do, was unique. So it shows their coach is able to kind of deal with that as well. I'm trying to look at where they are in the table. And I'm kind of okay. They have Copenhagen and Sevilla. They should be able to advance. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
so and all right, so we'll get to Sporting and Spurs. This was a bit surprising considering what we saw Spurs do on the weekend, but this one did end 2-0. Maybe a little. Uh, I guess a little. I guess I wouldn't say surprising, um, deceptive, because the game was very even the entire game, and both goals came in basically in the 90th minute.
Mm-hmm.
The XG was under one for both. But if any, Luis did have a couple really good saves. To be fair, though, the one guy that stood out was Marcus Edwards, who might have even been like a Spurs player. At one point, he's like a tiny, I think he's like 5'6" or 5'7" forward, but he had a couple like really nice dribbles that he made Eric Dyer almost want to give up and retire on the spot, even though he just got a single call. But yeah, it's just the game ends 2-0, and really it gets started with a goal off a corner kick. Luis made a really good save before that, so I thought definitely what the Sporting were deserving there, and then they allowed Arthur Gomez to kind of dribble through the back line in the last minute. To make it a little bit more convincing than maybe it should have been, but what's kind of weird is Sporting have done so well in the first two games in Champions League, and I think they're eighth in their domestic league. So
Mm.
it's one of those, and well, maybe I don't know how much losing a Mateus Nunes has factored into that, but
Yeah.
it is interesting how they're definitely flying in Champions League. So, what did you think of this game, or what do you think of Spurs?
Yeah, I mean, Spurs they're really good this year. I'm definitely worried about them.
hmm
I think honestly, this game kind of seemed like maybe a little bit of a mistake by Conte in the substitutions department because
hmm
I mean he made only one sub, Kulusevski. I think maybe because like it was 0-0, and he was like, I don't want to change a lot.
hmm
But it seemed like when Sporting made their subs and they made four changes. It kind of the first time it resulted in a goal, and then they made two more changes, and then right after that they scored their second one. So I kind of felt like maybe Conte should have been a little bit more proactive and maybe done a couple more changes. Maybe they kind of
I like that.
just to throw in something different. Maybe Spence. He hasn't really played that much, Spence, and
hmm
then maybe throw in Basuma too, get him some time. So I was surprised to see Conte only make one sub, and it did seem like when what's their manager's name? Amorim for Sporting, when he made the subs, he made the right subs at the right time, and the team kind of responded, and it seemed like that was what won the game for him, and Conte kind of failed to pull the trigger, and I understand why, because like it was 0-0 for most of the game, and they weren't playing bad. So, but I don't know. I would have liked to have seen them be a little bit more proactive. Maybe it could have, they could have grabbed the goal, and then who knows what happens after that. But yeah, that was kind of my impression on this game. But I think it's just a blip for Tottenham, honestly.
I mean, Basuma's a really good shout. I didn't even think about him, but oh yeah, that guy I mentioned last week, Manuel
Play
Ugarte,
that much.
had another really good stat line when it came to him winning duels. He's a bruiser in there. He's able to kind of disrupt things, and you think of someone like Basuma, who's also kind of a destroyer himself. That would have been a good matchup maybe.
Mhm.
And it is interesting how we haven't really
Yeah,
seen him that much. You figured this would be kind of a
yeah. I wonder why.
really good game for him. Um,
I think so.
I mean, Spurs really are weird, because they haven't really been great on the eye, except for what they did on the weekend. But
Yeah,
quietly, I think they're second in goal difference and second for goal scored. Um, so that kind of surprised me a little bit. So it's one of those where where we don't know if the front three is working. Yeah, it's not necessarily all Kane, but
Mhm.
if there's maybe maybe there's some questions on what their best front three is, but at least so far it seems Richarlison or Kulishevsky or Son coming off the bench isn't really disrupting them that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah, it seems like no matter what Conte does, he has a couple, power subs that can change the game when they come on,
mhm.
and that's a good problem to have. He's going to start, and then he's going to come on and throw, health like fresh, fast pace at you. Like we saw at the weekend, bring on Son, and he scores 3 goals in like 5 minutes. So it's a good problem to have. And they're finally starting to get some more attacking depth, and they don't necessarily have to rely on Kane and Son anymore.
Mhm. Yeah,
I mean, they still a
that
little
is
bit,
really
but
big.
not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, and then we'll move on to Chelsea and Salzburg. This one ends 1-1. A bit of a first really the first chance we get to see of a Potter ball at Chelsea.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was Chelsea weren't bad. I mean, 17 shots, only 4 on target. Had a lot of passes compared to Salzburg. I think it was like 540 to 149. Salzburg were able to kind of get a goal on almost like a Chelsea mistake at the back. Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta weren't necessarily that great, but I think like maybe the storyline was the different formation that he went with, or the way he played Sterling. I don't know if you kind of noticed this. So he went with a three five
Yeah,
two, and when I first saw the lineup, I was thinking maybe it was going to be a 4-3-3 with like a back four with Azpilicueta and Thiago Silva as kind of like a in a back two, with Sterling
center back.
kind of forward. And no, it ended up being he still played with wingbacks, and he played Sterling almost like he's played Trossard,
Mhm.
which was unique. So he was able to he was able to kind of do Sterling, Havertz, and Aubameyang to almost form like a front three in attack, and it looked pretty good. So what did you
Yeah,
think of?
Sterling scored too.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Yeah. And so what did you think of that move, or what did you think of Chelsea?
Yeah, I thought it was a good move. Cucurella too in the back three,
Yep.
kind of being a center back too, and not being a full back. So you don't. I mean, that's the dangerous side, Cucurella and Sterling. But you don't necessarily get to see Cucurella go up as much. So maybe that's why Potter did it, kind of just provide some more defensive stability. But man, I just don't. I don't really. I would like to see Havertz get going, and I don't know how Aubameyang's going to be this year either.
Yeah.
So I mean, the striking problem is still a problem, which is weird to say because it kind of last year, they had Lukaku and striker wasn't necessarily an issue, and then a year later, and Lukaku a bad year, and he's on loan, and now they're kind of like maybe grasping at straws a little bit with Aubameyang. I don't know. We'll see, but I do think it was a more stable lineup.
Hmm.
It might be what Potter goes with going forward, just to provide that defensive stability. And you also have like Jorginho and Kovacic sitting deep in the midfield too. But yeah, it was a good role I think for Sterling too. I think, um, I mean, we talk about how good he is out wide, and he can kind of come up from surprising, deep, surprising, whoever they're playing against
Hmm.
in that wingback role, running at wingers with pace is always scary. So I don't know. This might be Potter's formation going forward, just to just provide him a little bit more defensive stability because I think that is kind of what ultimately got Tuchel fired is they started to leak goals more and concede more. So I think Potter's just trying to come in there and provide some defensive stability first, and then we'll figure out the offense later. But I am worried about the offense.
Hmm.
I just don't. I don't think. I don't know about Aubameyang. I think he might be close to peak. I mean, he's past his peak, but he might be close to being done. Honestly. And then there's still a little bit of potential with Havertz, but it's not consistent yet.
Yeah, like the weird thing with Havertz is we kind of talked about how we think he could be maybe like a Muller, kind of like a playmaker, but more often than not, instead of him trying to kind of play in that cam role, try to be the link up guy, he likes to really run to the right side. He likes to go wide and leave the space there. And sometimes that you already have, that's kind of where James likes to play. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily work. One thing that I did think it was interesting was, you mentioned Aubameyang, who did start. Armando Broja came on in the second half and did offer them something a little different. I thought he looked really good. So I'll be interested to kind of see maybe if we see more of him going
Yeah,
forward.
they probably
And
should. Yeah.
one thing that's interesting with the formation that this kind of offered is another reason why I don't think a back four would work, like that 4-3-3 formation that we talked about, is I don't think Jorginho can be a lone DM by himself. And
Mm.
I think we kind of saw that versus Southampton. But in this situation, he's got more bodies close to him. He's got more options, and he's really good when he's got time on the ball. And he's I don't want to say Regista. He's like a playmaker from deep. He's not gonna necessarily do a lot of fancy stuff near the goal. But he'll help you build possession from the back, and I thought he played a pretty good game as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's a good shot. We haven't even seen Zakaria yet
mhm.
from Juve. We think he could possibly be a good player because before he made the move to Juve, he was crushing it at Mönchengladbach. So
Yeah, good job.
and then Pulisic, we want to know how what's Potter going to do with Pulisic? Is he going to start him? We're hoping so as USA fans. We're hoping that he starts Pulisic, but Pulisic didn't start this game, but he did come off the bench. So I think he's got a better chance to start now because I don't know, Tuchel didn't really start him at all. He was kind of just a bench role. So maybe we'll see just a little bit more starts thrown his way with Potter, hopefully. So that's something to look forward to just from a USA perspective.
Well, I wonder. I don't know if Pulisic wants to play wing back, but if you can play
Probably
Sterling in
not.
this way, maybe you can play Pulisic as like the left winger, left wing striker.
Yeah.
I mean that
Hmm.
it would be played over Aubameyang, but
For
um,
Havertz, yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can still play Broja on the right side. I think Broja can probably play on either side. Um, but the downside here is, I think they only have 1 point because they did draw this game, and they sit in last place, and they've got AC Milan back to back weeks now. And so
Oof.
AC Milan could with Giroud to meet them, and AC Milan are flying right now. So that'll
Yeah, I
I mean
wouldn't want to
big
play them.
that Potter's going to be tested early. You can say.
Yeah, it
Um,
was kind of important for them to get all 3 points. It's kind of like the Liverpool situation, where
yeah, it
a
really was.
point doesn't necessarily do much, but a three points would have been great. They would have been back in it. But a point, they kind of have to win the next game, and it's going to be tough because it's against Milan, and then after that against Milan again. So
And I think we mentioned Okafor was one that got the goal for Salzburg, and he scored in the first game as well. So back to back games for him for the 22-year-old. And so we'll move on
oh
to
yeah,
Bayern and Barca. This, I guess was the headliner of Group Two. Um, Bayern do win 2-0. I think last show I was expecting Barca to do the opposite, and that didn't necessarily work out. But to be honest, I feel like the way the game played out, maybe it should have. Just Bayern
yeah.
didn't, or Barca didn't necessarily have the finishing. I mean, the XG kind of
Mhm.
agrees with me. Barca was 2.3 and Bayern was 1.71, and the shots was 13 and 4 versus Barca's 18 and 4, and that's kind of the stat that really jumps out. 18 and 4
Mhm.
when you have someone like Lua. Lua just did not have his finishing boots on. But
Mhm.
goals from Hernandez off a corner kick. It's poor marking from Marcus Alonso. I I did not even realize he was on Barcelona. To be honest, I
Mhm.
was like, what? Chelsea didn't like him. Why you? Why did you go get him? and that didn't
Alonso and Christensen on that side. It's
that
weird.
didn't necessarily work out. And Sane got the second goal with a Musiala assist. And oh yeah, Christensen too. I looked at that lineup
Mhm.
and I was like, wait, what happened to the speed? What happened to Alex Baldi? And yeah, that did not work out.
No, yeah, it was kind of a weird lineup defensively, at least.
And so I kind of get started. I guess there we'll get started maybe with Bayern, because it's very weird because their form in Champions League is not the form in Bundesliga right now.
Mhm.
I think for the last four games, they're three draws and they lost on Saturday. So I mean, what
Yeah.
what should Bayern fans think right now? I mean, you're kind of a semi Bayern fan.
I am a Bayern fan. Yeah. Honestly, at first I wasn't worried really. They sometimes they kind of have these slower starts, and they weren't losing games. There were a couple draws, but they weren't losing.
Hmm.
But then this weekend they lost, and they didn't really look good at all. I think Pavard got hurt, and I don't know if he got hurt in this one or if he got hurt in the Barca game, but he got hurt. So now he's out for a little bit, and Bayern is kind of. I feel like they're struggling to find who they want to play defensively. They got Delit, and he starts like every other game. So there's really no consistency in the back line. That's something I don't like. But I do think they'll start to come good. I mean, I hope so. I think they will. They just have too much talent. And then also, they can't really find the best positions for Mueller and Mane too. Mane's played striker and
Yeah.
he's played on the wing, so they can't really figure that out either. But I do think they have players, and once they start to figure things out, I think they'll be fine. And but the story for this game wasn't really Bayern for me. It was what you mentioned. It was Barca's misses, and Lua had three or four misses that 90% of the time they're goals.
Hmm.
So that was kind of weird, and we saw a couple strikers going against their former teams, and maybe it got in his head a little bit, or he
Could be.
just got a little bit too excited, and he wasn't his usual calm finishing self. But I don't feel like he has many games like that at all. So I think next time they play each other, I would expect Lua to score two or three goals, honestly, because I think this was just a little bit of him just maybe getting a little bit too excited. I don't think he's really happy at the way Bayern kind of treated him at the end, given how many goals he scored for him, and
Hmm.
he could put the team on his back, and that's kind of on the weekend. That's definitely what Bayern missed. If they had Lua, I got to think they would have gotten something from that match. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting though. I do think Lua's going to have this game earmarked for when it's at Barca, and he's going to score a bunch. I feel like it was just an off day for him, and it's so rare; it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, Thierry actually said something similar, where or he said something to this effect, where he was asked, what was the mindset that you would have if the fans, because you go into the ground you played at for all these years, uh, to the crowd clapping you and appreciating you, which is what happened, as opposed to booing you. And he said, I would prefer being booed. And I don't know if that maybe factored in a little bit as well, but it did seem he was off it
Mm.
for one reason or another. Um, I think with Mane is I don't think they understood the player that they were getting. Maybe they saw the Mane that finished the second half of the season for Liverpool, when he was kind of played in this number nine role, when he was finishing his chances. But his time at Liverpool, he was a left winger that would cut inside. Um, he used to be able to beat people for days. He had amazing pace to him. He used to look like Alan St. Maxian, but with in product. And he's kind of lost that burst a little bit now. I mean, he can still get past players, but he's not nearly as electric. And he's never really been a pure finisher. And so you need to play him next to someone as well. And I don't think Muller is a
Mm.
pure finisher as well. So playing him next to Muller
No.
doesn't necessarily help with that. Sane is kind of hit and miss. So I don't know if you can play him next to
Yeah.
Sane either. And I think the problem you have with Bayern is you have three or four players, Musiala, Coman. I'd include Serge Gnabry in that as well, and Mane, who are all kind of the same player, so to speak. Maybe they play on different sides of the pitch, but they all kind of act the same way. And like you're saying, the reason why someone like Lua worked there instead is Lua was different. Lua was, give him the ball and he'll put it in the net. The other guys can create, and the other guys can are reaction finishers, and they have pace, and they can help you with pressing and all that other stuff. But sometimes when you have too much of a good of one thing, that can be a detriment as well. And I think they're kind of struggling for that. You mentioned that guy last week, some like Tay, I can't
Yeah.
tell. Is he a striker?
Matthews. No, he's center of the park, I think. Let me look real quick. Cause I mean he's really good, but he's Matthews Tell.
Tell.
Yeah. Um, he came on, but he didn't start. But yeah, he's a really young French guy.
Is he a
He's
striker?
I don't know. I'm trying to find out because I haven't really watched him play. All right.
Because it'd be
He
interesting
came
if.
he came on for Sane, so I guess he's on the left striker
Okay.
or right striker. So
But you're saying he's young, so I guess he can't necessarily be who you rely on. I mean, do you wonder if Nagelsmann is in danger?
yeah, I mean, gosh, he right now, yeah, because I mean, Bayern Munich, the board, the people above him, and all the fans, they certainly expect Bayern to finish first. And if they finish second in the Bundesliga, it's kind of a disappointment. So, yeah, I think he's in danger. As long as Bayern's not in the top two, I feel like whoever is managing Bayern is in a little bit of danger there. But, it, he's not going to be sacked, I don't think, unless things go catastrophic. He won't be sacked until like the end of the season. So yeah, I think if they finish third or fourth in the Bundesliga, I don't think that's enough for the Bayern hierarchy to keep a coach. I really don't, which is crazy to say, but they're so used to finishing first, and if it's a hiccup year, they finish second. So I think anything below that, yeah, I think Nagelsmann is definitely in danger of being sacked.
I mean, it's a shame for him that the international break didn't happen after the Barca game, and people are just going to stow on what happened in Bundesliga.
Mhm.
But people are going to think about that, fans or the board, and then they have Dortmund. I guess at the start of October, Dortmund is in between the two Victoria Plaza Champions League matches. If they lose to Dortmund, ay, that would
Yeah.
I would be worried for him, to be honest, and that's not something I
Mhm.
think I would have said maybe a month ago. Um,
Yeah, it's weird. And maybe the Champions League game kind of made the team a little leggy on the weekend too. Because
Could
they
be.
did the
Mhm.
Barca was, it's that's not a stroll in the park. So maybe that played a factor. But they have the depth to be able to rotate and keep fresh legs and still not drop performances that much. But
And
I mean, they dropped a performance this weekend. So
so what's interesting with Barca is I think not only did Lua not score, I think that's the first game that Barca I guess has been hold scoreless so far. So we didn't see that on the weekend. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird. Like you lose the game, and you played Bayern last year, and I think that one ended 3-0. But if I'm a Barca fan, I look at this a lot differently than last year because the performance was significantly different. Bayern, I think, could have won that last year's game like another 8-2, to be honest, or
mhm,
8-0. They
yeah,
looked so much different. And Barca were much better at handling Bayern's like high intensity press. They weren't really turning the ball over. Pedri and Gavi are a year older, and it just seems Barca have definitely evolved, at least where they were, after Messi left them. So I
yeah.
think there's still
We
reasons to
like
be
them.
optimistic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Xavi has his team firing in the right direction, and you mentioned some of the young players that they have, and they do have a lot of youth. Maybe a little bit worried about the defense, like you said.
Hmm.
It was not the not the fastest. Kunde helps a lot, but yeah, I think they're going in the right direction. Xavi has them going in the right direction. They're second right now in La Liga to Real, right? So yeah, things are looking good, and I mean, honestly, they should have won this one. I think this is a game where probably 80% of the time they win because if Lua scores two of the four misses he has, then that's a draw. So yeah, I think they're fine. They're doing well. I like the way things are going with Xavi.
Yep. All right. And how are we doing for time?
All right, so we'll be at an hour and 13 minutes. We'll be at 11:45.
All right. So
So we got to do
we got
the rest
Real
of the Champions League in
Madrid,
13 minutes.
Real Madrid. We can do this. Okay. So we'll get to. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about with this game. So Real Madrid beat Leipzig 2-0. It's another bad result for Leipzig. I think maybe the story of the game was because Benzema was out. Rodrigo was actually played instead of maybe Hazard at striker, and It didn't necessarily show up in this game, but it definitely showed up on the weekend versus Atletico Madrid. Rodrigo scored, and it is funny how I was thinking this was maybe Real Madrid's one weakness, and so far since losing Benzema, I think they've scored like 9 goals, conceded two, and won all their games. But yeah, I mean the goals. First from Valverde in the 80th minute. It's another great goal. He cuts back to his left foot. I'm pretty sure his strong foot is right, so he's scoring a lot of goals with his weak foot. All of a sudden, he also scored versus Atletico Madrid, so he's starting to add a little bit more goals to his game. Um,
Yeah.
I talked him up last week. This guy's a hell of a
Yeah.
player because
He is, and he's not necessarily playing in his natural position either.
right. Yeah, he's like playing a fake position because he's white wing, but he'll drop back. He can play in midfield, help back with possession. A couple years back when Liverpool played Real Madrid in the Champions League in a knockout stage, the second leg at Anfield, he played as a right back and was amazing. So it's like damn this guy. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's really not a ton to talk about. Do you have any thoughts on Madrid or Leipzig?
Yeah, I thought Leipzig didn't do too bad. They kind of hung in there. It was 0-0 until the 80th minute,
Hmm.
and then Valverde cracks things open, and Asensio adds one in stoppage time. But they hung in there. They had 47% possession. They had 9 shots, and 3 on target. But it was kind of more for me, like you said, Real 12 shots, 3 on target. It was kind of another team that didn't necessarily bring their shooting boots. But
Yeah,
they play so hard. They're another team that's like they're impossible to stop. You can slow them down, kind of like Leipzig did. But it was kind of like the Dortmund City game. It was like they held strong, they
hmm,
defended really well, and you just can't stop them for 90 minutes. And eventually you're going to get tired. They have really good bench players to bring in, and they'll crack you open. But it might be another kind of way for a blueprint for teams to kind of slow down Real also if they can kind
definitely
of
without
take some of
Benzema.
these Leipzig lessons. Yeah,
Yeah,
and without Benzema, yeah, you
yeah,
have to capitalize and then when he gets healthy, then good luck after that. But yeah, you have to capitalize without Benzema, and he'll be back kind of soonish too, since we have the international break. So I think honestly, I think Real is probably my second favorite right now, to City. And like I
yeah.
said earlier, I'd love to see those two play. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, because I kind of had I want to say hedged gave my answer or hinted my answer a little bit earlier when I asked you who your favorite was for Champions League. You said City. For me, it is Madrid. But even usually we don't really see repeats, so maybe that'll come back and bite me. But at the moment, I don't really see a weakness because you can't really press them, especially when Cruz and Modric are playing. You have someone like Vinny who's amazing in 1v1 situations. He actually creates the goal for Valverde in this case. When Benzema is in, he's Harry Kane like when it comes to playmaking, but also he's Lua when it comes to finishing. To be honest,
Mhm.
and maybe I
Yeah.
guess the one weakness is can Benzema, Modric, and Cruz last the season? Because if they can't, then you do.
Yeah.
And the fullbacks, Hall and Mendy, have fitness issues in the
Mhm.
past as well.
Yeah.
But fully healthy, I do think this is a more complete team than City, especially because you can bring on change of pace guys. You can bring on Camavinga to do something different in the second half. And that midfield of Camavinga and Shua is going to stop any kind of transitions and create transitions by themselves.
Mhm.
They've got ball winners everywhere. So yeah.
They're the perfect combo of youth and older statesmen, experienced
Yep,
guys. It's the
exactly.
perfect combo. It's not too much inexperienced youth, and it's not too much like elder players. It's a perfect combo.
And Leipzig do have some injuries, so maybe that's kind of hurting them as well. No Danny Olmo and Conrad Lammer, so that's maybe showing up. Frankly, I think that you just have to get Timo Werner firing. Too many
Yeah,
times he's getting into good spots, and he's not being decisive, and he's not being confident in front of goal, and it's really hurting
Mhm.
them. So
Yeah. That's all. The Chelsea stint didn't do him any confidence finishing.
really didn't. Yeah, because you kind of wondering maybe if it was just like him living in London, and no, he's back to where he should be comfortable, and it's still not showing up.
Yeah, because he
Um,
destroyed the Bundesliga before he left. He was free scoring.
he was 30 goal. He was up there with Lewis. He was 30 goal of score of him. So all right, so we have Leverkusen and Atletico, and this was maybe another shock of the week because this one ends 2-0. with over Atletico. Atletico are a mess right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, and goals came late too, in the 84th and 87th minute. Um, the XG was actually, yeah, Leverkusen kind of bossed it, 1.87 to 0.99, and then 18 shots and 5 target to 12 and 3. Just Athletic, like we said, Atletico really are a mess. So what are uh, what are your thoughts on Atletico, at least at the moment, Rex?
Yeah. Atletico, gosh, they're really not doing well. Leverkusen isn't even like if you were paying attention last year, Leverkusen's not wasn't a bad team in the Bundesliga last year, but this year they're in 15th. So you would think Atletico would beat a team that's 15th in the Bundesliga, but Atletico kind of, I mean, at times they outplayed them. They had a lot more shots than Atletico, and I still feel like I don't know. I feel like Simeone's trying to find the best lineup too, and they've had some injury issues at times, and is Griezmann starting? Is he not starting?
Yep.
Murata is an iffy finisher, honestly, and then I don't think Yao Felix has necessarily got going as well.
Mm-mm.
So that just scratches the surface. I think defensively, Hermosa's pretty good, but like you have Axel Witzel playing in there, and he wasn't really a defender, and he's also really old too now. So it's kind of like a stopgap, I feel like, in defense. So I don't know. There's a lot of issues here, but there's also a lot of talent. I think they will figure things out, but this is a really bad loss. Leverkusen is really struggling this year too,
Yeah. Hmm.
and like I mean they have some decent players. Schick scored a bunch of goals last year for him, so he's a key player for them. But this is a really bad loss for Atletico, and I think Simeone's got to turn things around quickly because of. I mean, I don't want to highlight like this one game, but I feel like last year Atletico would have crushed Leverkusen of this year, because they're not good. So yeah, I do think he needs to change things around to kind of avoid being in the hot seat, which is weird to say because he's been so good there at Atletico for a pretty long time, considering coaches don't last long these days. So, but I do think all that experience, I think he'll turn things around here, at least in La Liga. Maybe not Champions League yet, but I think he'll turn things around in La Liga soon.
What's interesting is like sometimes when you see a back five/3, people kind of get confused because when you play with three in the back and you play with like attack-minded wing backs, that can be an offensive move. Way too often, Atletico don't do that. They actually do sit back. I think that's kind of a problem. They're just a bad watch. I watched their game versus Real Madrid on Sunday, and it was actually opposite. They actually tried to give it a go, but they had no one that was able to make a run in behind. Felix likes coming to the ball. I don't even they didn't start Morata. Grealish doesn't have the legs that he used to anymore. They don't have someone like Vinny to be able to make a run up deep or like a Salah or just pick whoever. They just don't seem to have that, and they also shithouse a lot. There's just, anytime they try to buy a
They do.
foul, they make just it's a bad watch. And yeah, maybe it's just one of those things where I don't necessarily know if it's end of a cycle for them. I talked about with Liverpool kind of getting into a cycle. Simeone's been there for maybe 10 years now, and they haven't
Yeah,
really seen a lot of new players come in during that
that's
time.
true.
So
And they're seventh in La Liga. So I mean they've scored 10 goals and conceded six. That's not like terrible, but for Atletico they should be scoring a lot more and giving up a little bit less. So seventh place, a lot of work for Simeone to do there because they're used to being a top four team.
and the problem is you spent something like 100. You broke your budget to spend 130 some million on Joao Felix, and he's not scoring the goals for you. That's an issue
Yeah,
as
he's
well.
crucial.
Um,
Yeah, but I
real
think
quick,
he'll come good. He's a quality player. I think he will come good.
real quick on Leverkusen, I did come across an interesting stat that I wanted to get out, and we can maybe almost like bypass PSG. Uh,
Yeah.
so we've talked about how bad a form they're in for Bundesliga. Um, and I thought, I kind of put it off to them maybe missing words, but it could be a little bit more than that. So I came across distance covered for, I guess, kilometers. Top three in the league are Union Berlin, Cologne, and Freiburg. So basically, two of the three that are in the top three for the league. So doing the most running essentially. Dortmund and Bayern
Yeah.
are 10th and 11th, but the Bayern three were Leverkusen, Leipzig, and Gladbach. Um, so I don't, and I was really surprised to see that, to be honest. So I don't know if maybe players aren't being asked to run anymore, if it's a tactical, or they're just tired. But I think that's maybe factoring in some of their form as well. Um,
Yeah, that's a good stat.
all right, and so we'll get to PSG versus I'm gonna say Maccabi Haifa. Is that it? Oh,
Maccabi
Maccabi.
Haifa.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah,
That is definitely it. Good job, Rex. I mean, this one they did start the game scoring first with Cherry,
yeah.
and then
It was crazy.
really it was as if like the PSG like board director had like dreamed this. It was like Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar all just kind of getting a goal one by one. But shots were pretty much even. Uh, Haifa didn't necessarily play a bad game, so I don't know if that's really good on Haifa or that's maybe daunting on PSG. But I mean, do you have any thoughts on either team? Or
Yeah,
yeah,
I was impressed by Maccabi Haifa also, and their stadium was pretty cool. Pretty, it's like gold on the outside,
they were loud
and
too.
it was actually pretty packed, pretty loud. I thought they played well, but you can't, you know, Haifa, a team like Haifa, they can't shut down PSG for the whole game. This is kind of like a theme, I guess, in the Champions League. But they did do a good job of competing with them, and they had the early goal, and they kind of didn't necessarily sit back and defend it. They actually tried to go and score some more, and maybe that kind of came back to bite them a little bit.
Could be.
But I have to applaud them like going forward and trying to score because they probably got up and they were like, we can't keep a 1-0 goal lead, a 1-0 lead against PSG. They're going to score.
Yeah.
We might as well go for it a little bit. So I was excited about that. But yeah, PSG, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, the three Musketeers doing it again. And I mean, there was rumor that all three of them maybe weren't getting along, but it seems like that's kind of stopped. And I think it's no coincidence that it stopped when all three of them are starting to score
Yeah.
goals now,
That
kind of
too.
keeping the mouths happy there. So yeah, I mean, it's good. I don't want to see those players fighting. Let's see them playing.
Well, they also, I guess, maybe are trying to keep their fitness up for World Cup because I think all of them have that in mind
Yeah.
as well. I mean,
Oh yeah,
like like
totally.
like you mentioned, I mean, the 13 shots and five on target was pretty surprising to me. Um, one thing I am kind of worried about, maybe for PSG, is one Verratti ended up having to be subbed on the weekend. He already hurt his calf. But two is not necessarily sure if Verratti and Vitinha is the best kind of midfield pairing for them. And the reason why that's important is because you don't have the front three really doing any kind of running without the ball. And so those guys have
Yeah.
to press. Those guys have to do extra work essentially. So I'm wondering if like Fabian Varese works better, or maybe Renato Sanchez when he gets back from injury. But PSG still have problems. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting that you say that because in the post game show of the Champions League, the hosts were talking about how like they've never seen a front three do so little off ball,
Yeah.
and they're kind of like, if one guy isn't coming back, like if Mbappe isn't coming back and defending, that's another thing. But they haven't really seen a team win Champions League when they have three players that don't come back and defend. So they were kind of like, that's an issue that will most likely stop them from winning the Champions League. All three of them don't really track back and defend, and aren't that interested in doing things off the ball. So that's a big point that might stop them from winning the Champions League.
And let's see, how are we for? Did we get there? We kind of we went
An
over.
hour
We went over a
and
lot.
2 minutes.
All right. I mean, other notable results: Napoli beat Rangers 3-0, AC Milan 1-3-0 or 3-1. One thing I did want to highlight is Juve did lose to Benfica 2-1. One because Juve, we keep talking about Messi. There's maybe a theme here with some of these clubs that they kind of seem this similar coach, similar philosophy almost. Where Juve are kind of in a downfall. They lost on the weekend to Monza. They're missing
Mhm.
Kiesa and Pogba, but I'm curious if there's a little bit more to that. I mean, real quick, do you have any thoughts on Juve and Benfica?
Yeah, Vlahovic isn't really scoring for UVA either,
Yep.
and I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans say thanks UVA for getting him instead of us. So yeah, that's interesting too. And then let's see. I want to highlight Club Brugge beat Porto 4-0,
Yeah.
and they're actually top of their group. So Porto kind of struggling. Pretty happy for Bruges. That was a comprehensive win, and they're undefeated in the Champions League so far.
Yeah, and Bruges is doing that. So they lost. Is it to Catalar? They lost to
Yeah, I
that's
never know how to say his name.
at Milan now, and they haven't been
Mhm.
playing Noah Lang in these games. So that is quite impressive. I wanted to highlight for Benfica, this guy Enzo is it Fernandez, um, who is he keeps having insane stats, 95% pass accuracy and 11 of 16 for ground duels. And this guy is a potential workhorse, and he's really good at passing the ball around. So maybe someone to keep a watchful eye for. And Shakhtar
Mhm.
drew Celtic. So all right,
Nice.
I was trying to be at the 60-minute mark, and it looks like we're at the 70-minute mark. But we'll get
Yeah, we're close.
into the Premier League. Basically, we could just kind of end the show after this game. But Arsenal do beat Brentford 3-0. Uh, I actually woke up kind of late for this, and I was not expecting the scoreline when I did wake up. Um,
Yeah, same here.
so for the lineup and formations or the injuries, Zinchenko and Odegaard were out. For me, I think the big storyline was Partey was back, and I'll probably get to that as well. And then for Brentford, Ajer was back, but Norgard was out, and that was almost in the same manner. That was a big problem for Brentford.
Yeah.
Goals from Saliba, Jesus, and Fabio Vieira, and Arsenal, 13 shots, 7 on target. 500 passes to Brentford's 283, which I think definitely showed up. I mean, they were just passing the ball for fun. And so that's kind of setting it up. I'll now just kind of give the floor to you, Rex. Just to,
Yeah, it was I recorded it. I wasn't waking up at 7 either. But yeah, I was kind of expecting this to be a close game, especially because of everything that happened last year, and Brentford are a really hard team to beat, I feel like.
especially at home.
So yeah, especially at home. And right away, Zinchenko is out and Odegaard's out, and those were kind of surprising to me too, because those were picked up in training, not games. So I didn't even know they weren't going to play.
Hmm.
But then, right off the bat, I did notice Rico Henry was getting wide in that wingback role, and I really was worried about that because he's on Penn White, and he had a couple crosses like really early on, and then Arsenal kind of cued in on that and shut it down, thankfully. So I think that was kind of an option that Frank wanted to do, with his three center backs, really get the wing backs up because you have Hickey too. But that didn't necessarily work after a while. I think Arsenal kind of keyed in on that and were able to shut it down, which was nice. And then I was really excited to kind of see Vieira finally play. It
Hmm.
was nice.
Yeah.
He's still a little rusty because he did miss all preseason. So I think this is like his third game he's played in. But he was pretty good. He had a couple clever balls. He's kind of a Odegaard esque kind of player. And then he had a great shot. He was given way too much time, but it was a good shot for him, and get the confidence up. And it's good to have someone that can come in and replace Odegaard because Odegaard has been kind of knocked around. I think last game he did play, but he had an ankle knock. So, but for Brentford, they didn't play that bad. They just didn't play as well as Arsenal. So, I'm not necessarily down on Brentford after this performance.
Hmm.
I mean, I would have. Mbuma looks tired. Maybe like Visa could start. He's so fast too. But I think Mbuma looks a little jaded. Maybe rest him. But Arsenal are just good. It's another corner goal given up by Brentford too. We talked about that. That's
Yeah.
something that's been reoccurring. Every game it seems like they give up a corner goal, so they need to get that straight. But they didn't play that bad. I think Arsenal just played really well, honestly.
Yeah. I want to say maybe in the first minute, or like first 2 minutes, uh, when Gabriel has a shot that kind of he messes up on. Before that, there's like 20 consecutive passes where they are just knocking the ball like it's Man City, and it's just you saw that it was just that kind of passage of play. Was if you're a Brentford fan, that would have scared you. If you're a neutral fan, or neutral watching in, that would scare you, and that kind of stayed the entire game. Another thing too is like Martinelli's got like a glove for his first touch. Like even balls like hit into him like really really hard, he's able to keep. But I mentioned Partey. I think Partey does make you guys next tier because it's one
Mhm.
thing to have a defensive midfielder that's good at being good possessions, good at winning tackles, duels, but he is not a liability on the ball. He's you can't really press him. He's got very good ball retention, but two, he's got a good pass on him, and he doesn't take too long on the ball. And we'll get
Yeah.
into it for the Leicester game. Ndidi is good in everything but being on the ball, and you see what happens when he lost it. That led to the Benasser goal. But Partey was just the way he was able to kind of pass forwards. It made Brentford. It was a bit like Rodri is for City. Like you had to focus on Partey almost when Arsenal were trying to pass from the back and build up because just he was everywhere. And
Yeah, and it kind of freed up Shaka to move forward a little
definitely,
bit, and he had
yeah.
a couple shots,
I
and
think
he had an assist too, so
I
he
think
shines also with Partey.
I think you saw the entire team play better because Party was in. So I mean, there's still question marks, behind him. I don't think Arsenal played that way if Sampa's playing, essentially. But I had questions about Saka because Saka hasn't always had the best fitness. Marquinhos has looked really good in these Euro games, or at least in that one Euro
Yeah,
game. Vieira maybe
yeah,
depth for Odegaard. Ben White starting to look better at fullback. Like you said, I was kind of worried about that. So if Arsenal have the depth. If they can keep Party healthy, maybe they can challenge City. To be honest, because fewer teams press the way Arsenal do, and fewer teams are good at playing through a press than
yeah,
Arsenal
that's
right
true.
now. So,
Yeah, they play really quick 1-2s, which is it's so fun to watch, and it's a little bit surprising because a couple of years ago they weren't doing that. They weren't playing that well, with limited space. But yeah, they're playing quick. Quick 1-2s really work. But I do worry about Thomas. He hasn't proven that he can stay healthy in a Premier League season.
mhm,
He's already been hurt this year, so I do worry about him. I kind of feel like they need to wrap him in cotton wool until he can get a streak of games going again. But because that does worry me when you put Lakanga in. He's good, but he's not Partey good.
mhm.
So that's definitely an issue. But then I do want to highlight Ethan Waneri coming in. This guy was kind of actually completely off my radar. He's a center attacking mid, and he became the youngest ever Premier League
Yeah,
player to
this
play in a game.
this really
He
aged
beat
me.
out Harvey Elliott. Yeah, he's 15 years old. 15 years old, in 181 days. He was born in 2007, which makes me feel
Right.
old. We were in college. And then the crazy thing too is he signed in 2016 with the Arsenal youth team, and he was born in 2007. So he signed a professional contract when he was 9 years old. Um, I feel worthless because I'm like
Yeah,
almost four times his age.
that's one of those where
and
I actually really don't like that because you're not. There's no way you can know someone's. Well, I guess you can like see what someone's parents are, but the way you kind of grow into your body and stuff, I do think that's too young. But I'm a Debbie Downer on that kind of stuff, to be honest, because you don't you don't know what someone's full potential is until they're like fully grown. Uh,
yeah,
to be honest.
yeah, and well, it seems like he kind of moved through the academy pretty quickly too. So I think they just started him on the youth team, and he moved up to like the U18 team this year. He's been on England U17 and U18 as well. But I also heard, I don't know if this is true, haven't done enough research, but I also heard that he wasn't even allowed to change in the locker room with the players. He had to like change by himself because I think you have to be 16,
Hmm.
some kind of rule. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. But you have to be 16, I think, to be able to like change with the big dogs. So I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's kind of interesting too. But I think it's just more, to the fact that Arteta wants to kind of keep this Arsenal squad young
Hmm.
and kind of show the youth teams, the youth guys that like, hey, if you play hard, there's a path
Yeah, if you're good
to
enough,
success with
you
the
can
first
find
team.
you can
Yeah,
find a way player. Yeah.
yeah, and that's key because we've had some, some good talent leave. We had a Salah and he left for Chelsea this year. So trying to keep those young guys here. Smith was in there. He didn't play, but he was on the bench, and Sousa from West Brom was on the bench too. So yeah, I like going with the youth too, especially if it's a easy game, throw them in there. Let's do it. Get some confidence there.
So Rex is nothing but Rex is all smiles for this, and Ramsdale maybe might get some playing time for this for England coming up with Pope's injury. So might get
Yeah,
to see
Pickford's
him.
out. So
Yeah.
who would you go with Pickford out? Would you go Pope or Ramsdale? Because honestly, I think I'd go
I would go Pope.
Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been playing really well, but Ramsdale is a great option. He might play like one of the games, and then you'll see Pope play the other one or two.
I mean, Ramsdale
But
does
yeah, I'd
have
go Pope
he does have English
barely.
caps, but I feel like Pope's like problem at least at Burnley was he wasn't good with his feet. I think he's kind of showed at Newcastle, at least so far. Howe's tried to get him to do that a little bit more, and he hasn't been bad. Um, at least with his distribution. I mean, he's still not going to be. He's not going to be. Well, actually, that's where Pickford really has upped his game. He used to be a liability as well. And then
Yeah,
to kind of just quickly end, Saliba was he got the goal and didn't just get headlines for that, but kind of just manhandled Tony. And I think we're probably going to see
yeah,
him. We're going to see him maybe start for Deschamps come in November. So
yeah. I would think Deschamps has him penciled in there as a center back for sure because he's been playing really well the last. I mean, he played really well last year in France. So yeah, definitely.
all right, and we'll get to Spurs and Leicester City, another North London team that had a pretty good weekend. This one ends 6-2, even though it was 2-2 at halftime. Got started with let's see. Tielemans with a PK, though he was retaken after Loris had to save, and then I want to say within like 2 minutes, Kane was able to get them level from a corner kick, and then Dyer was able to score. I think this was also from a corner kick. That's going to be a theme that we'll talk about. Then
Yeah.
Madison out of kind of nowhere because Leicester just were getting outplayed left and right at this point. Was able to get him back with a very nice, clever finish. Again, 2-2 at halftime, and then really the floodgates opened. Ben Nasser was able to score after catching Ndidi too long on the ball, and then Son came on at halftime, and within 13 minutes scored a hat trick. And we'll definitely talk a little bit about Son because it was a special hat trick. It was a left foot, right foot, and scored making a run behind. So different ways to score. So let's
Mm,
I don't know whether they're talking about Spurs or Leicester, to be honest. So we'll maybe get started with Tottenham. We'll talk about the team that won. Um,
yeah.
Son did wake up, and I guess maybe that's kind of the story. I was I was kind of expecting not necessarily this, but I was expecting him to come back at least a little bit because one thing that I get worried about is when players don't even get looks, don't get chances. When I
Mm,
see them getting in good spots and just kind of messing up, that kind of especially if one's like been a good finisher like over their career, they usually play out of that. And I think we've
yeah.
kind of seen
Figured
that
out.
over the weeks. And yeah, he came on, and I don't know if it was he was slighted for being benched, but man, did he look good when he came on.
Yeah. Oh, it was insane. I get he'll play his way into the starting line playing like that. But it's good to be able to drop him and have like Richarlison and Kulusevski because they're really good players too,
Hmm.
and you can kind of rest them or figure out what maybe he does need to be benched to kind of like spur him into a little bit better form, and maybe he did it because he was amazing off the bench. He completely flipped the game on its head. Uh, even more so. And it was shocking. It was shocking to see 6-2 too. And I don't know. I have this stat for Tottenham that kind of possibly shows where they might be at the end of the year. So 17 points from 7 games so far. It's their joint highest record for Tottenham, best record
Hmm.
since 2017, and they actually finished second to Conte's Chelsea that year. So I mean, things are
Good
looking
call.
good because now they have Conte, and they're in second place. Um, I mean, wait, are they in second place? I don't know. They're high up the table, but yeah, it bodes well for them. And then on the flip side, I have Leicester, and they're winless for the first time in their first 7 games since 1983, 1984, and they've conceded 22 goals in those 7 games, which is the most ever for Leicester through 7 games. So it kind of speaks to how much trouble they're in, honestly. And um, some of that was with Fofana, and they don't have him anymore. So
Yeah,
possibly, Rogers in trouble too.
and I think that's where we should go with this. I said we'll get started with Spurs, and we talked about Son, but this story is really what Leicester's doing right now. I mean, you mentioned the guy that got his debut, Wout Faes. How did
Mhm.
he look to you? Because you said he had a good pass at least in one of these.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, it's going to take him a little bit to get used to playing in the Premier League, especially when Johnny Evans is your center back partner. That's kind of unfair. But yeah, he had a great through ball to Daka, and it should have been an assist. Daka was in on goal and didn't score, so I thought that was good by Fowles. But defensively, I think it's going to take a little bit to get him up to Premier League speed. And honestly, I don't think Leicester really have the time to do that. But I mean, it's their fault because they decided to sell Fofana so late
Hmm.
that they didn't really have enough time to bring in, someone. And I think Foss is a good player in Ligue 1, but I don't know how that necessarily translates, to the Premier League. It's not, he's not like a Saliba kind of player. He's not quite as good as that. But I think he'll be good eventually. But it was an opportunity, a great through ball to Daka, and Daka didn't score, and it kind of just that play kind of encapsulated Leicester for me, where it's like they have a decent amount going forward, but you know they either don't score or their defense is so bad they don't score enough to really compete with some of these teams. So I don't know, man, not doing well, and they are notoriously not doing well with a lead as well because they had an early lead through the PK. Opening day they blew a two goal lead to Brentford too, so they
This
don't
is
do well with the lead either, which is
That's an
which
important
is
point. Yes.
yeah, that's bad for that might be something too that Rogers is sacked, and they kind of look at that like, hey, you can't hang on to a two-goal lead against Brentford, a one-goal lead against Tottenham, and you end up losing 6-2. Like, how does that happen?
And
So yeah, I don't know. I think Rogers might be gone soon.
just a week ago, I think it was also 2-2 versus Brighton, and we saw basically the same thing in the second half, with that game ended up
Hmm.
5-2. I mean,
Oh yeah, forgot about that one.
I don't even know if it's necessarily the defender's fault in some of these games. I mean, Ndidi loses the ball, and then I mean, you kind of left to, maybe you can stop him or not. I mean, I don't know if the keeper can do better in some of these shot. I mean, these are
Yeah,
long distance shots from Son. I mean, they're great shots, but still. And then you're giving up easy goals on corner kicks, and this has been an issue. This was even an issue with Schmeichel when he was in goal. I don't understand why they've been so bad, like 3 years in a row, maybe even four. On corner kicks, they've been the worst team at giving up set pieces, or I think it maybe even just his corner kicks. But
mm.
you kind of asked, should Rodgers be sacked? And I mean, I've got my thoughts. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he should be. I feel bad for him a bit because they did lose a lot of players and they didn't bring anyone in. They brought Faz
Yep.
and that's it. And Schmeichel was a huge locker room presence as well.
Mhm.
I don't think with Schmeichel they don't give up as many goals, but I don't think I think they're still where they're on the table with Schmeichel, and that kind of speaks to
I think so.
how far they've sunk here. Because we're talking about them just barely losing to United on the final day. When was it? Was it 2019?
It
And they end
might
up
have been
finishing
COVID.
fifth instead of fourth,
Hmm.
and things from there have kind of unraveled. Not getting Champions League. And Vardy's an aging player; he's not really starting anymore. But I do think they should be doing a little bit better. Tielemans, Madison, Barnes. So I do think Rogers is going to be sacked. But again, I feel bad for him because they didn't spend money this year. What can he do if you're losing good players and you're not bringing players in to replace them, or if you do, you bring them in super late, and it takes time to adjust. So I feel bad for him, but yeah, he's made some weird decisions as well, and I think I think he's probably going to be gone.
I mean, I was watching the game with Andrew. Andrew was visiting, and he like noticed the gaps that were there. Like you had Daka that was literally just playing by himself, and then you had four like midfielders all playing in a line. And it's four
Mm.
players, but they're basically the same kind of player. They're not going to make runs to kind of join Daka. They're ball to feet players, like Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall, Madison, and Harvey Barnes. And it's like I do not understand why you're not playing Daka with a striker with someone to run off with, because we saw that work a little bit versus Brighton. We saw Ian Nacho and Daka play well together. When
I'd
Vardy's
like to see
played,
Nacho more. Yeah,
yeah, when Vardy's played, he's kind of done the same thing. He's played Madison underneath Vardy, but he's not playing with two strikers for some reason. And another thing that's weird is you're playing Ndidi all by himself, and he's been able to do that through his career. But at the same time, you're exposing him to any kind. If he loses the ball, I mean, you're SOL, and we literally saw that for the third goal. So I don't get why you're not pairing him with someone to maybe give him a little protection, and that would maybe help your back
Yeah,
line a little bit. Uh,
especially against a team like Tottenham. Like if they're playing Southampton, then maybe yeah, indeed he can be by himself there. But a team like
yeah,
Tottenham, no, he needs help for sure.
so it's just weird. It's weird tactics. So I kind of I do think it maybe is time for him to go. And that said, I mean I'm gonna throw maybe a couple names at you. I mean, what were you? Well, another thing too is I don't know if you looked at the schedule, but it's relatively it's doable after the international break. So if you did do it now, you'd have a week or so to kind of get used to the squad, and then I think let me quickly run up. I think it's like Crystal Palace. I wrote it down. Crystal Palace, Forest, Bournemouth, Leeds, and Wolves.
Ooh, yeah,
So
that's good.
October is doable to get if you do like if you buy into the idea of like getting a new manager bump, just kind of get new feelings in. You can maybe ride that into some pretty good results and some pretty important points, I would say, because that's
Mhm.
kind of needed as well. I mean, real quick, do you have anyone that they should maybe look at?
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know if they would go from to another league. They probably would, but I don't know. I mean, it would be. I don't think they could go and get like a Tuchel. I don't think Tuchel would go there per se.
No.
But I would like to see them kind of reach for a solid manager because they're in a lot of trouble. I think they need someone experienced to come in here because if you're going to get rid of an experienced manager like Rodgers, a younger manager, I don't know. This is not a good situation for a young guy. So I would like to see them kind of reach for an experienced manager. I don't know. I hope they don't do something like get Hodgson out of retirement or whatever and put him in charge. I hope they reach for like a good coach. Like
Well, there has
I don't
been
think Tuchel would go there again, but that'd be cool if he did. See how he would do with Leicester. But
there has been a name thrown out, and what's interesting is and it's not, Jeremy like saw it, but he's seen it and actually reported. I think Athletic was Thomas Frank, uh, which was interesting.
no.
But I don't. I at this moment in time, I think that would maybe be a step down from where he is at Brentford. To be honest, like
Hmm.
Leicester don't really have the financial backing to even help out in January
Hmm.
if they're in trouble. Regardless of maybe if you think the roster itself, the starting 11 is more talented. I probably do. To be honest, well, yeah, I definitely do. Maybe not at the back, but
Yeah.
the names that are on their sheet, and they're like 26. Most of the stars are 26 or under. They're not. These aren't like 30-year-old other than Vardy. Um,
Mm.
I was thinking maybe Dyche, which I've said before, or Rafa Benitez. To be honest,
Ooh.
defensive first guys that are really good at getting things structured, but also really good at managing on a shoestring budget. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously this would be temporary, but I think the fun thing would be is going out and getting Celtics Ange Porticalu.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't say
The
names.
Greek,
Okay,
big Greek guy.
because well, one, you went to Celtic to get Brendan Rodgers, I think. So
Hmm.
you've already done this before. Two, I think this guy is ready for a big move. I was thinking maybe Brighton were going to go this way. So it would make the jump to maybe do that. But it would be a risk. That said,
Yeah, but there's something there. I mean, they scored 10 goals this year, and that kind of would put them in the teams, Leeds and Newcastle ish, in 10th and 11th. But then they've conceded 22, which is the worst by 3 goals. Bournemouth has given up 19, and they had that crushing that Liverpool put on them too. So yeah, there's something there offensively, but defensively, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. I wouldn't expect them to be rock bottom in the table at this point, and rock bottom and goals conceded as well.
I mean
I wouldn't have expect that.
Ward
I
is
mean, I
bad
know
too.
Fofana, but
I would
yeah.
I
Oh, I
would
bet.
probably the first thing I would do is see what your second guy has to offer. It can't be worse, to be honest.
Yeah, he's made a couple mistakes too, but he's the Welsh starting goalkeeper weirdly too. So I don't know, maybe not anymore because who do they have like Hennessy
Oh, I thought
or
Hennessy. Yeah,
someone?
Hennessy was amazing in the was it versus Ukraine? Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the playoff.
Yeah, he had PK saves or something, right?
It,
Isn't he a good PK
I
saver?
don't know if he had a PK save. He made a number of like, really close, close distance saves.
Yeah, so
Uh,
maybe Ward's out of there. I don't know. That'll be interesting too. and maybe USA benefits from that. Who knows?
Oh shoot, I do want to
Yeah, because
talk.
we are in their group.
I do want to talk USA. I mean, Man City Wolves. This one ends 3-0. Again, Stones at right back. Whatever Wolves had planned ended when Jack Grealish scored within like I don't know 30 seconds into the game. Um,
Yeah,
Kevin De Bruyne assist again, and then Holland scored again. Not that surprising. And then Foden scored after the Collins red card. I mean, the game was over before the red card. Um,
yeah.
is really not a ton to talk about with Wolves. So I mean, they brought in Diego Costa,
Diego Costa. Yeah,
to maybe help out when it came to their striker depth. But I am a little concerned that they don't have enough there. But you can't really take anything from this game because of the red card. Um,
yeah,
but you maybe to quickly focus on Holland. Holland is now on 11 goals for the league. Um, do you instead of maybe talking about him being the Golden Boot winner, should we look at him like, unless he has an injury, he's going to walk past the record of 32, right? Because
yeah. What's he on pace for? Like 54 Premier League goals, I think, is
he's on
what
a
it said he's on pace for.
he's on a goal for like 48 minutes.
It's great, and
Every 48 minutes
it's
he
his
plays.
first year in the league. It's crazy. Like, he hasn't been playing in the Premier League. It's a different league.
Farmers
It's more
League.
physical.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
more
a
physical
farmers
than the
league.
Bundesliga. It's crazy, man. Yeah, I think 54 goals is what he was on pace for, and we've seen him score with like 10 touches in the game, and he scores still. So you can do it with minimal touches as well, which is scary if you're
he
playing them.
he gave an insane interview. It might have been after a Champions League game where he was asked about his few touches, and he said his dream is to have 5 touches in a game and for them to be 5 goals. And like I can see it
Oh,
happening.
yeah, me too. Crazy.
I was like, you sadistic son of a
Mm.
gun. Um, I mean, one thing that's kind of wild though, is he is scoring all these goals, and that is good for City because no one else is.
Yeah.
One thing that you used to be able to say about City is they had, all of you had 8 midfielders that were scoring 10 plus a season. Uh, I
Mhm.
don't think anyone else is on over 2 right now. So he is getting all of those goals. So it's a good thing he is putting them away. Um, but
Foden has a couple, right? Doesn't Foden have like? Let
Foden
me
has
see.
2. De Bruyne only has 1.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Foden has two. Yeah.
Alvarez has 2. Yeah.
Damn.
Maybe Gundogan is on too. Yeah,
Yeah, Gundogan might
that's what
too.
I saw. And Grealish actually did score for them, and he didn't necessarily have the best game versus Dortmund. And one thing that's interesting is Pep was asked about him before the or after the Dortmund game, and basically said he didn't bring Grealish on to score goals. And so I don't know
Hmm.
if that took the pressure on him, but that you there you go. You saw him making a run into the box. So all right. So
Well, I mean, he brought him on to score goals before he had Haaland last year, I think.
yeah, it was a weird comment. Frankly, I just think he makes him worse. I think he takes too much time on the ball. If he can offer himself more offensively without the ball and make runs into the box, kind of offer himself that way, maybe that would kind of change things a little bit. But yeah, I just think let Cancelo have the ball in the build up, because
Mhm.
he's hesitant to take players on, and it's just
Mhm.
yeah. Um,
Here's a
so
here's a crazy Wolves stat to end with Wolves is they haven't scored a second half goal this year. 7 games, no goals in the second half. I mean, what have they scored, like 3 goals all year?
they're in,
So yeah, they
they're in
they haven't
relegation.
scored in the second half yet.
They're in
Yeah, they scored 3 goals.
relegation problem, and I think they have the second best defense in the league. It's
Yeah, they've only conceded 7 goals. Yeah, it's tied for second with a bunch of teams. So yeah, I mean, I was worried. I was worried before, but I thought their defense was good enough to kind of carry them out. Um, Man, I don't know though. I
I don't
don't. I
either.
don't think so now. Costa, what is he going to score? Like 5 goals max? I feel like he's just grasping at straws there. Maybe Jimenez comes good eventually, and that could fire them out of the relegation zone ish. I don't know, but their defense is good, and I admire their defense. But yeah, man, they got to score goals, and I don't see them coming from anyone unless maybe Jimenez steps up.
And the thing we talked about, with that Jeremy episode, is you're going to need to win games. You can't
Mhm.
just you can't even get even if you score 1 goal, maybe it's a draw. You need to score multiple. to to win comfortably in some of these,
Yeah.
and you don't see how they're going to get points easily. Yeah, and so
Mm.
I mean Everton. See if we can maybe wrap this up kind of quickly. Everton and Wolves. Everton wins 1-0. West Ham. West Ham actually maybe another team, kind of like Atletico and Juventus, that are kind of going backwards and maybe
Mm.
not a good way. And I don't know if it's because maybe Moyes has been found out or what, but they just seemed. I mean, they did wake up in the second half. They finished with 14 shots. It was only two. It was only four shots and two on target in the first half. But it's one of those where you kind of look. It's a similar team to what we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years with Moyes there. Um, uh, Cornet is not necessarily starting for them, which is surprising. They have kind of
Mhm.
replaced the back end a little bit. They're good at the back, but
Yeah, I think so.
Rice and Suchek in midfield is kind of stale, and Paqueta is going to have to play really well for them because if he doesn't, this becomes a real problem for them because Paqueta got destroyed in this game. I think he was 1 for 9 in his duels.
Ugh.
Um,
Yeah. Ugh. I don't know. Some people seem like either leggy or I don't know. Like Antonio isn't really producing like he usually does, and then Bowen last year was amazing, and he doesn't have any goals or assists yet. He and Antonio really both look kind of tired to me.
I think so.
I mean, they got to get them going. They were a huge key to their scoring success last year, and I mean, Antonio has I think a couple goals, maybe just one in the Premier League, and like a couple in the Europa Conference League. So maybe the Conference League can get him going, but they need him and they need Bowen, I think, too. And then, maybe Paqueta can kind of step up. And they have a talented bench. I mean, they have Skamaka who scored a bunch for Sassuolo last year. They have Cornet. They have Ben Rama. So I think they'll play themselves out of this trouble they're in. But I don't know. I think Moyes is kind of on the hot seat or starting to get hotter as well because they haven't had a good start to the year either, and they're not scoring.
Mhm. Yeah, they're up there with Wolves for
Hmm.
least scored. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, Rabiot hit the post, I think, in this game when he came on. I mean, they did look better in the second half. I think Cornet should start for them, to be honest. I'm kind of
Me
surprised he
too.
doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see
He
him start.
almost, he almost rescued them versus Chelsea. So, and you mentioned the Conference League. I do think that there is maybe a lot to that, to be honest, because it's not just the playing; it's the travel as well. I mean, I watched their game versus Silkeborg on Thursday, and what's weird is they were winning comfortably. I think it was like a 3-1,
Mhm.
but they were so stagnant. They decided to not to press. They allowed Silkeborg to have a lot of the ball, and Silkeborg came back and almost tied the game. So
Yeah, I think
I
Singapore scored first too, didn't they?
I turned it on when it was 3-1. To be
Yeah, I
honest.
think they scored first, and it
Okay.
was it was like a comeback win for Brentford. I mean, not Brentford, West Ham. Sorry.
Because one thing that was interesting is not Raz, Moyes did play differently. He played. He tried not Benrahma. He tried. He tried someone.
Fornals?
No, it wasn't Fornals either. Shoot. He tried someone next to Rice in a pivot, and it worked. It worked pretty good. It's that Argentine midfielder. Um,
Is it Palmieri?
I'll think of him later.
Emerson?
Think it starts with an A. Oh well. But
Oh, wait, is it? No, I don't know.
he
I don't know
scored.
who you're talking about.
I remember he scored like a screamer for Spurs. But anyways,
Huh.
I'll probably think of it like 5 minutes later. All right,
Post it in the YouTube comments.
we'll move on to Newcastle and Bournemouth. This one ends 1-1. Really, not a lot to say about this one. Bruno Guimaraes got back, and I think that improved their passing. Ishtak was able to score again for them, but it was really off a PK. Uh, I mean, I think if you're Newcastle, you're just waiting for Alan St. Maximin to return. But
Yeah,
I
20
mean,
shots in this one though.
yeah, I think having Bruno Guimaraes back really did help. Um, I mean, what do you have any thoughts on either Newcastle or Bournemouth?
Well, Newcastle's kind of another one of those teams. One win, but they have five draws. So they're another team that probably have to start winning soon too. But like
Mhm.
we said, Wilson's been out. Maximin was out in this one. So they haven't done too bad. But I think Newcastle fans really want some of those draws to turn into wins because they're 10th right now with only one win. So a couple more wins and less draws. and they're moving up the table. I think they're kind of positionally they're kind of close to where they want to be, but they want to win more. And this is
Mhm.
another instance where if one of those draws is a win, let's see, they'd be in sixth place instead of 10th.
They
So
got
that's more credit to that, winning over getting those draws all the time.
I don't say they got cheated, but Fabio Vieira, not Fabio Vieira, Fabio Cavallo, basically stole a point from them as well.
That's
Yeah.
right. But yeah, that
Um,
was a good game too.
yeah, and Newcastle. It's one of those things where like what matters more to you, performance, like how a team looks good, how a team is competitive, or the actual end results. And
Yeah.
we know Mourinho thinks one way, but some people kind of think there's a there's a bit of a in between there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and I mean, I think it's a good point for Bournemouth. Phil Billings starting to finally score a little bit for them. I mean, I just say they don't pass. They don't pass enough for me.
Yeah.
165 passes. It's
27% possession.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
they're gonna get tired.
it's not 9-0, so
Yeah, yeah, they kind of
not giving
stabled
them
the
nine.
ship after that 9-0
I think so.
game. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're actually 2 draws and a win the last 3. So looking better. They're in 12th, which is pretty good for a newly promoted team.
hmm And speaking of newly promoted teams, Fulham played Forest. This one actually was maybe game of the. Oh, sorry, Rex. Maybe game of the week for
Oh yeah, 5 goals scored.
ending 3-2. Um, you mentioned Noah Anton Robinson. That was kind of a headliner for Fulham, but also William started, which I didn't even know they had William, and he actually looked
Yeah,
pretty good for
weird.
them. And Tim Ream got another start for them. He kind of played a right back, and maybe we'll get to Tim Ream. Um, but really, it's one of those where Forest actually get the first goal. I think it's off a corner kick. So Fulham showed bounce back ability because then they scored basically in I want to say what 5 minutes. First
Mhm.
got with Tosin, uh, also from a corner kick, and my first thought actually was I wanted to watch an EPL game and I'm getting championship stuff. I don't need to see stuff from corner kicks. And then finally, Paulinho kind of helped out with that because he had a wonder strike. And
Mhm.
one thing that's interesting is Mitrovic did have a bit of a quiet game, but he did help out with the build-up, and as did William uh, in the build-up to help get the ball down the I guess the Forest end before the shot. I mean, obviously everyone's going to talk about the shot, and then Harris Reed was able to get a goal as well. And some of these goals are coming from people you wouldn't expect. So
Yeah,
I think it's really big that Fulham were able to win a game without Mitrovic necessarily banging for them. Because if there is maybe a weakness to Fulham's game, you'd wonder where the goals will come if someone can keep Mitrovic down. So that was pretty big as well.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree because teams are going to try to shut down Mitrovic because they know that he's the focal point of the offense. So yeah, Fulham they do have to have other players step up when Mitrovic is either being covered by a good center back or just not playing well, and they did it in this game, and it was I agree, super important for him because Mitrovic is kind of the main man, and if he's hard to shut down, but if you do you look at the roster, the lineup, who's going to score.
Mhm.
And it looks maybe now like Paulinho might be someone who they can rely on to score a little bit, and I don't know, maybe Harrison Reed too. So yeah, hugely important for them to get other people to provide goals.
That was a good finish by Reed too.
Yeah.
Commentators were like, "Oh, he doesn't score," but with that
No,
kind of
he doesn't.
finish,
Yeah, but
yeah. Because another thing too, like on the third goal, is you actually saw William like making a really good run, and it drew the center back to go to him. That opened the space for William for Harrison to run up. Yeah, that was a good team goal as well. And
Hmm.
then Lewis O'Brien was able to get one uh, to make it 3-2, make the last 15 minutes interesting. But Forest really weren't able to do much after that. We've talked about a couple teams already that we're kind of worried about. I think Forest is in that category as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Maybe just all the new players they need some time to gel together and get used to playing together because they do have a lot of talent. So I think maybe that's the issue. So maybe there is a pathway there to
Nope.
league. Um, so it's going to take some time, but once that happens, maybe this is a team that we'll see next year, and we might with this spending we might see them kind of do maybe a little bit of a Newcastle, and maybe move up the table to mid table. But yeah, it just depends on how quickly all these 20 or whatever new signings they got gelled together.
I mean,
It might take a while.
I'm hoping. Well, it's one of those where you spend that money, you're probably expecting a return. I hope they have some kind of realistic expectation for the manager, Steve
Mhm.
Cooper, because it's going to take him some time just to kind of figure out who he wants to play,
Mhm.
let
Yeah, and the
alone
defense isn't
how he wants to
too
play.
great.
That too.
They lost Niakate, one of their signings, who I thought was going to be a pretty big center back for him. But we'll see what happens when he gets back. But they lost him early on too. So
Every
yeah, the defense is a concern as well.
every game, I'm seeing Steve Cook and Scott McKenna not basically making mistakes at the back. I think
Yeah,
that's a good shout. And Lewis Ryan scored for them. He didn't start for them, so I don't know if he was
yeah,
rested, but frankly, I think he's their best player.
me
So
too. Yeah,
you
so
need to
far
you need to
he's
find
been
a
good.
way to play him. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
and I guess we'll finally end off with Aston Villa beating Southampton 1-0. Um, Not a lot happened in this game either. Ramsey got the
Yeah, it
goal.
was a
It
bit of
was
a tough watch.
uh, the XG was basically it was the -1 for both. Ramsey's goal actually had some controversy because he was originally offsides, but because I think uh, I think Southampton had like one of their defenders actually headed the ball. That kind of
Oh yeah.
canceled that out, so it didn't really matter.
hmm
The ball bounced off the post, and then it was a free ball in the box, and Ramsey was able to bang one in. And good for him. He's starting to play well for them, which they need, to be honest, because Coutinho played again, and he didn't necessarily offer a whole lot. Watkins still isn't necessarily firing yet for them. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but
It was a huge win for Villa
I
for
think
sure.
it at least
Huge 3 points.
it at least gets the dogs off Gerrard, because
hmm
you're able to
For a
follow,
little bit.
you're able to follow this off the City performance. And with Southampton, I don't really know what to make of Southampton either. The only thing I can say is when you look at the lineup, they are missing Romeo Lavia. Now he is only 18, but the last time we saw him, Southampton were beating Chelsea, and now he's out, and they're not. He's only out for a hamstring injury, so maybe after the international break we'll see him again.
Yeah, he was a good pickup for them. But not he's not going to score too many goals, I would think. And
True.
they need goals scored.
Yeah.
Honestly, they need someone like Broja. I think that Broja. I mean, what did he score, like 6 or 7 goals for Southampton last? So I would have liked to have seen them maybe get Broja, but what can they do other than that? So I mean, they're going to be okay, I think. I mean, typical Southampton probably, like you know bottom of the middle area of
Well,
the table, I would
they'll
say.
take that definitely.
Yeah, I think so too.
I
Yeah.
don't know if Hassan Hoodle wants more. I mean, one thing that's kind of weird is they got him from Leipzig when he got second in Bundesliga. So
Yeah, true.
he's like a Champions League level manager. So they
Mhm.
have to be lucky that they have him. But it is one of those things you kind of deal with what you've been dealt with. They have a young squad too. I think
They do.
other than
Yeah.
Arsenal, it's maybe the youngest, and they're a
Hmm.
couple of young players. I think Sigurmar is under 20, and Samuel Aduze, I think also a City player, is making their bench. And whenever they play, they produce a spark, but they don't play enough. Um,
Yeah,
so
and they're just too young.
we finally did it. Let's see if we are under 2 hours. We are basically
Wow.
not.
I think we're going to be able to do USA probably.
We'll end, international. We don't have to talk about Nations League. USA does have two friendlies. First is Japan, and then they have Saudi Arabia, and basically this is the last tune-up before the World Cup. What are your thoughts heading into these games, Rex? I mean, what maybe concerns? Who are you looking to watch?
Yeah, I don't, I'm concerned. We've had some injuries, honestly. Um, we're not going to have a couple players. We're not going to have Zach Steffen. I think he's coming back from injury. Actually, he played for Middlesbrough on the weekend. It was his first game back from injury, but he's not on the lineup. We talked about Anthony Robinson's not on the lineup.
Musa as well.
Someone got hurt. Yeah, Musa's out. Who got hurt? Was it not Mark McKenzie? One of the defenders is out, and he got hurt. He's out for the year.
Oh, the guy in
Um,
Palace.
No, I can't remember who it was.
I
Oh,
hope it's not. I
shoot.
hope it's not the guy in Palace.
I don't know. And then PFOC kind of got snubbed. He's been playing really well
Oh, it's
for Union Berlin.
Michael Robinson.
Yeah, yeah, that's who it is. Michael Robinson. Yeah, and that suck. But I don't think Moose is out for long. And Carter Vickers got hurt for Celtic too, so he's out. And I don't. Reyna didn't make the line. Oh no, he is. He's in it. Reyna's in there. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not feeling that great about the team right now, just
I'm, I'm
because.
worried about the back line. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I just don't. I don't know. I guess it'll be like Aaron Long and maybe Mark McKenzie, Eric Palmer Brown, Walker
Mark,
Zimmer. I don't know.
it'd probably be Zimmerman. Uh, Mark McKenzie. I think he got a few chances to play. It was during I guess during our Nations League. You know, when that final when we played Mexico, he was at fault for the first goal for Mexico. Just completely gave the ball away. I maybe a year younger. I mean older. Maybe he'll be better. But I am worried. Uh, just because Berhalter does like to play from the back, and I think maybe Zimmerman's gotten better. I don't really trust Aaron Long at all with the ball at his feet, and so if they do
Yeah.
try to play pass from the back against someone like Wales pressing them, I think it's going to be turnover city, and I don't
Mhm.
understand. I mean, maybe Chris Richards will play instead. That's who I was thinking of, Richards. Um, but he's also been
Oh,
kind of
he's out
he's been shaky as well.
too.
He's out.
Mhm.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, he's out for these friendlies at least.
So I mean,
But we do have Malik Tillman.
I
That'll be
haven't
interesting to see if he plays. But
I've been one of those people that hasn't really loved Berhalter playing Tim Ream, but the last couple times he's played, he's actually looked pretty good, and he's playing well for Fulham. So I'm surprised he didn't get a
yes, I
call
think
up.
he started every game. I think for Fulham.
So I'm surprised he didn't get a call up. And once again, the whole thing with John Brooks and Berhalter, someone needs to write a book about it because it'll definitely be juicy. Because I don't,
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me.
he's not. Yeah, he's not even on
Because
the roster.
he's not playing, and you don't fancy the German league, I guess for some reason. But at the same time, I don't think he's in it's in Portugal now. He's
Mhm.
playing elsewhere. And so that just doesn't make sense to me because I think he's the best. Not only the best defender, I think he's the best with the ball at his feet. I think he's really good with his long balls. So
At
yeah,
least we have McKennie and Tyler Adams in that midfield pivot. Hopefully, at least they're healthy. And then we do have Reyna coming back from injury. See what he can do. Last time he played for USA, I think he have that like he dribbled around like a couple guys
he
and
looks
either had
really
an
yeah he looks really good for
assist, right?
Mexico.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. Yeah, and then hopefully Pulisic. He hasn't. I think that's part of it too. Is like some of these guys haven't played that much. Pulisic hasn't played that much. Matt Turner and goal played that much. That that worries me, especially your keeper playing out of the back. If you do go with Matt Turner and he's only played one game, that worries me. So these games are going to be interesting. And Saudi Arabia's not bad, right? I think they're a decent team. That might be a good test.
I feel like it's Saudi Arabia that even has the coach, the former like African coach. He's won the Cup of Nations a couple of times. I think they have him. So they have like a World Cup proven or an international proven coach as well.
Yeah,
But I can't
yeah,
I can't
dang,
necessarily speak of Saudi Arabia. I am interested about Japan though, because Japan has a
yeah.
number of guys that are flying right now in Europe.
Mhm.
Furuyashi Ryohate playing well for Celtic. Takimi
Healthy.
Minamino is probably going to start for them. He hasn't necessarily had a good start at Monaco, but did score on the weekend. Kubo looked very good versus Man United in Europa. And Kamada has looked very good for Frankfurt the last couple
Oh, yeah,
the
he's
last
been a
season.
good goal scorer. Yeah, good
So
call. Oh, that will be interesting. Is
it,
Tomiyasu too? Is Tomiyasu Japanese?
Tomiyasu's
He
on the
is,
team,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Dang.
they've
Mm.
got players you can recognize in the back because Hiriaki Ito of Stuttgart
Mm.
I think is on their lineup. So
At
Japan's
least these
got
will be
a Euro.
tests. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of players in Europe, playing in not just playing in Champions League, but also playing in Europa League and playing playing in the big leagues. So it, it, it'll definitely be it's a good test. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But both of these, I guess, are
Glad
good
we're
tests
not playing easy teams. Yeah, this is the time to play some tough
because
teams.
you imagine Saudi Arabia is going to probably play defensively, and so that'll be a good test to kind of see how we do versus block. Um,
Mhm. We can break down those teams.
yeah, I mean the issue
Mm.
again, like you can talk about the back line, which I think is an issue, definitely with keeper. We don't really have someone that's playing week in and week out.
Yeah.
Injuries, like you mentioned. I mean, another thing too, like just form, and we don't have striker. We don't know what the front line's going to be. It's weird to
Yeah,
go
we
into a
still don't know.
tournament and we have absolutely no idea what it's probably going to be Jesus Ferreira, I think. Um,
Yeah, it could be.
it seems he's been the guy that's started the last few games, and I think he's scoring well in MLS. So it's probably going to just kind of shoot with that, and we'll see how it goes.
Striker.
Uh,
Yeah.
you've got
Sargent's been scoring too.
I mean, you've got right.
For Norwich
You've got Sargent
Championship,
that's been
but
playing very well. I'm glad he at least made the line call up because
me
he
too.
didn't do it last time. And
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd be on it again, honestly.
Peacock's playing well for Berlin Union.
Yeah, it's kind of a snub.
And
Yeah.
it's weird how he's not getting any kind of looks. So, all right,
It's Bundesliga.
he really doesn't like that league apparently. Um, and maybe with Musa out, maybe we'll see Luca Della Torre kind of get to shine a little again. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'll be interested in that too. Yeah, good call.
And one thing to maybe say is, speaking of form, you mentioned Pulisic. I'm worried about Dest because Dest hasn't played a lot of football,
Good call.
and
Yeah.
he gave up a PK in his Milan debut. So not great. He literally just like kicked someone else's foot.
Ah,
So yeah,
it does look like Chris Richards though is a minor injury, so he should be still on course to play in the World Cup. Hopefully,
that's
barring anything else, it's just a minor issue.
well. He's also a hit and miss too. He hasn't really played a whole lot for Palace. Ugh.
Yeah, he's kind of like if he plays, he comes off the bench. It seems like, and at first I thought it was just Vieira wanted him to get used to the Premier League slowly.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to wonder, is he good enough to even start? I don't know.
We don't have a lot of guys playing right now. But
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
it's okay. We're still, it's still.
About
We'll get
2 months away.
we'll get through the
A little less
friendlies.
than 2 months
No
away.
one matters about the friendlies. Yeah, only matters
Yeah.
how you do on the final
Big
final draft or
big
whatever.
stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big.
There's no injuries. No
big
injuries
stage.
in these friendlies is what I'm looking at.
That's the
Please,
only
no injuries.
that's the only grade that matters. None of those quizzes. It's the final exam.
Yeah, totally.
And then if we do screw up, then Berhalter, you can stay in Qatar and not return. Well,
Yeah, I think pretty much.
we're not,
Yeah, I think
we're
that
not,
will happen.
we're not good that way. Actually, I'll say this: we can not advance as long as we beat England. I'd be okay with that.
Hmm,
That would give me
really?
enough. That would give me enough to kind of just laugh for a solid year. The football fodder on Twitter would be amazing.
Yeah, because I remember when we tied England in
Right,
2010, I
the
think.
the dopamine
And
for
that was like a
tying.
lucky goal for us too, and yeah, that was fun. So yeah, looking forward to the headlines if we do win. We'll have to like check the UK papers for funny headlines.
Bale's probably not playing football right now. Well, I guess he's in the MLS. I wonder what Wales are going to do with Bale. But anyways, that's it. We do have a 2 hour show, but it is what it is.
Eh.
Thank you guys for joining us. I'll try to clip it or try to put everything in detail. So like if you want to only listen to a certain game, for like 5 minutes, you can click on the hyperlink. That'll maybe help out because people aren't going to listen to this for 2 hours. But again, Rex, thank you for joining me. Thank you for putting some stuff on the script. That was good. I knew
Yeah, I try to put some fun stats in there.
I knew a little bit more to ask you, so that definitely helped out. And I must say, you sounded excellent today, as opposed to maybe last week. So maybe mic improvements. Good that.
Yeah, and that is the good gift, the blessing of Ben, one of his mics
Good.
he brought to me.
Good
So
that
we got
that
rid of
worked
the
out.
old mic, trying the new mic. I know I sound terrible in the old ones.
I think.
I mean, we had decent listeners still, so hopefully we have even more. I'm gonna post this one to Twitter too. I said that last week, but I messed up some things. I talked about like Napoli playing Udinese, and they didn't even play Udinese. They played like Spezia,
Spezia.
and I messed up on some other stuff. So I was like, maybe I won't post this one to Twitter, but I'm gonna do it this week because I got a new mic thanks to Ben, and I didn't mess up as much. I probably messed up a little. So yeah, look for us on Twitter too, at the Reserve Squad, and I'll post links to. You can catch up on old episodes on Spotify. You can catch up old episodes on YouTube. You can also do it on Twitch. So I'll post all that good stuff to Twitter.
Ooh, nice. Man, yeah, I do miss not being on Spotify, being able to play that in the car because
Yeah.
it's different to play a video because you you going through a little bit more of your bandwidth or more of your data. But oh well,
We have a bunch of shows on there that people could catch up on. I know it's like old soccer, but I think we're still kind of funny, and
they've aged
it's a
well.
lot of the stuff a lot of the stuff like that we talked about last year. We're kind of still talking about this year. So yeah, it does. I think we age well. Yeah.
Yeah,
So check us out.
there you go. All right, well. Rex, again, thank you for joining me, and then I guess for everyone at the I guess for us too at the reserve squad, you stay squatty.
Stay squatty.
There you go. All right,
Yeah.
and stop recording. Oh.